hand it off, got the first down, and more still going. Smith still on his feet, got a little help from his friends. Touchdown Bears!
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Preston Ebner checking in for Smith. Ebner split wide left. Chapin looking up top. He's looking for Ebner. Ebner's open. He has it. Touchdown Bears. A 61-yard score.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Smith to the air. Blitz coming. Ball's down. Baylor recovers. You could see it coming off the edge untouched, and Smith was absolutely crunched. It was the corner blitz, Raleigh Tejada.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
The redshirt freshman quarterback has his team up 7-3 and threatening again. Throws for an open receiver. Touchdown. Drew Estrada. Wide open.
Here's David Smoke.
Here we are this Tuesday, as it's been a holiday travel type of thing with Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports, and even on a couple of days and when I was off. I did check in with the chat room, and it just continues to go like a pulse and a heartbeat, and we appreciate you for that. Plus, of course, the text line throughout the last few days. I'm running solo today. Paul and Craig will join me tomorrow. Armstrong Sims and Jack McKenzie are in studio with me on this Tuesday afternoon, and we will all be in New Orleans to broadcast tomorrow from the Marriott, the media hotel, tomorrow on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. A couple of notes: Baylor men's basketball playing Northwestern Louisiana. That game is tonight. The women had a game scheduled after it was canceled, a game tomorrow against North Texas. How about this note? You know, we're seeing these bowl games that are canceled, and who knows by the time we get to Saturday, because I was trying to figure that out. The two teams, both Ole Miss and Baylor, delayed their arrival by a couple of days just to kind of stay back for a day or two. But despite what we hear about the bowl games, and I'm of the opinion there's too many. I mean, again, you say that unless you're coaching a team that gets to a bowl game. One, sometimes you get a bonus, but also the extra practices for a 6-6 team or whoever. And now we're seeing teams at 5-7 get in because of COVID. And that's, it's just not get off my lawn. It's just I don't even know half the time when bowl games are being played. But the Armed Forces Bowl, Army and Missouri. Now you have one of the great academies in Army. 2.57 million viewers they averaged on ESPN. That outdrew the night that Steph Curry broke the three-point record against the Knicks that was held forever by Ray Allen. That game, Army and Missouri, a bowl game, outdrew that game between the Knicks and Warriors that was on TNT. Bowl games, no matter what sometimes we think, they still draw. And I've had this conversation on the show when it comes to the expansion of the Big 12, and people keep going, well, why do they want to go past 12? And I keep bringing up the fact that there could be a Chapter 2 at some point, and I think that smoke starts to kind of go back up again at some point after the first of the year. And I keep telling you, and I keep trying to say this to you, content. Well, guess what? That's what we're talking about. Now, I'm not expecting some of those games to draw 2.57 million, but ESPN, they want content. They want content. And there's an example of a bowl game between Army and Missouri drawing 2.57 million on average. And that's kind of, again, what ESPN is looking for. Now, again, there's a lot of work to be done between now and expanding. One note about the basketball. College basketball now has had over 100 and some games canceled. Right now, there's a debate as CDC is trying to figure out the protocols, cutting back from 10 days isolation to maybe 5 for those who have been vaccinated who show no symptoms. This is right now forefront right here in sports. And you're seeing leagues, the NFL has theirs and the NBA, and they're all kind of maneuvering. The NCAA and really everybody when it comes to college sports is kind of like not sure what to do about it. They're trying to change things up, but that's something to watch. Jeff Goodman, who we've had on the air, who covers college basketball, put this up earlier today on Twitter. He polled 125 college basketball teams, whether or not they have been testing the entire team coming back from the Christmas break. 73 of those programs, 58% did not test coming back from the Christmas break. 53 of those teams did, 42%. Baylor and Northwestern Louisiana tonight. Baylor men's basketball tonight at the Farrell Center, the number 1 ranked team in the country. All right, when we come back, we're going to go to an interview. Gary Bohannon available today for the first time we've talked to him in forever. As today, the media, Baylor's offensive coordinator, Jeff Grimes, we'll hear from him a little bit later on. He was available. And then 5 players. Today, Ole Miss, their co-defensive coordinators and defensive players. And tomorrow they'll flip it around. We'll hear from some defensive players, including Baylor's defensive coordinator, Ron Roberts. But we knew yesterday after Dave Aranda mentioned Blake Shapen's out, and we kind of had that feeling. He just wasn't the same in the second half against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game. And you knew there was something wrong. He couldn't throw the ball. And now Dave Aranda confirming yesterday he's not going to play, hasn't been working out. He's got a shoulder injury, not sure exactly how severe, but it sounds like it's pretty bad. And then you wonder about, is that going to affect him when it comes to spring drills? So what does that mean? You have Gary Bohannon who's back, and Jeff Grimes alludes to that he's been looking pretty good, slowly but surely getting to that point. Then you have Kyron Drones from Shadow Creek. Don't forget about C.J. Rogers is a walk-on, a preferred walk-on from Argyle. Someone's got to play that position if they have to go down the pecking order of the depth chart. But here's Gary Bohannon for the first time. We've really heard from him since after he was injured against Kansas State.
Gary, I guess just, how has your progression, come along, coming back from the injury? Coach said it took a little bit, that you were a little bit slow getting back just because the ham wasn't there. But where do you feel like you are right now?
I feel like I'm in a great spot now. I mean, it's been quite a few weeks. So then it's about my second and third week, just getting back in the groove of doing everything. I honestly feel great right now. I think I'm in a great spot, honestly. Like I can do everything now. I've been running around and throwing the ball on the run. I've been throwing the ball well. So I feel like I'm trending in the right direction. I'll be good.
Next is John Werner from the Waco Tribune-Herald.
Gary, what does it mean to you to get a chance to play in the Sugar Bowl, and how difficult have the last few weeks been for you?
It means a lot to me. I'm just excited to be back, excited to be playing, excited to be out there leading the guys, just getting out there and having some fun and playing football with those guys. I mean, the last few weeks has been difficult, but I've enjoyed it. Just gave me time to sit back, and I missed playing, but I was able to kind of see everything from a different perspective. I've been able to lead in a different way. Also just been trying to get better and trying to help push the guys. I mean, we won the Big 12 championship, so it wasn't too bad, honestly. So it's been good.
Next is Eric Kelly from KWKT TV in Waco.
Yeah, even though we hadn't seen you play in a game, you took warm-ups against before Texas Tech. You took warm-ups before Oklahoma State. What was that final area where maybe you were just lacking a little bit that now with a couple more weeks of rest, you've caught up to physically that's made you feel like, okay, I can play and be my full self?
Then I was still limited. I still had quite a bit of pain. I couldn't run, to be honest with you. I could jog a little bit, but I couldn't really move around. So it's kind of a lot of different movements that I wasn't really able to do. So I knew I wasn't myself completely, but now I've been back and been doing everything. So I'm just excited, honestly. It feels good to be back running and moving around.
We'll go to Sam Kahn from The Athletic.
Hey, Gary, Treston was just telling us a little bit earlier that you guys, I guess some of the guys had planned a trip in the spring and invited you to come, and you decided not to because you were, I guess, focused on trying to win this job. Can you tell me a little bit about that incident and kind of your approach to this job this offseason?
Yeah, so we plan to go to Miami on a little guys trip just to get away, spend some time with each other outside of Waco. And I ended up counseling on them to go train. They were a little salty about it, but they understood it. And I don't know, just this off season, I had a goal in mind. I knew what I wanted to do. I spent some time here, and I've enjoyed being here. But I want to lead this team. I know I came here because I want to lead this team someday. So I just knew that I had to put in that work to make sure that I improved and make sure I put myself in the best position to win the job. So that was my biggest focus, just to outwork everyone and just keep pushing myself. So that was kind of how my off season went.
We'll go to Ted Lewis from the New Orleans Times-Picayune.
Yes. If the playoff system expansion had gone through, you would be at home, or you actually be in the Sugar Bowl this week in a quarterfinal game. How much more would the players like being for the playoffs to be expanded and have more opportunities for the playoffs, or do you feel like that 4 is enough?
I honestly couldn't say. I mean, I'm pretty sure guys would enjoy having more games and having more of an opportunity to make it to the final. So I would think that guys would enjoy that more, but I don't know. I'm so used to the 4, it's kind of hard to picture it any other way. But I mean, that would be exciting to see. That'll be a part of. So
We'll go to Curtis Quillen from KCN TV in Waco.
Gary, how hard was it to? I know you tried and you just couldn't run, is what you said. But how hard was it to watch those last couple of games from the sidelines? And I mean, what do you? As a second question, what do you feel like you guys have to prove this week against Ole Miss?
I'm gonna start with the first question. I mean, it was hard. Just I know I was doing everything possible to get myself to 100%, and the trainers were doing everything to get me well, but things just didn't work out that way. I mean, it was difficult, but I actually just put it in my mind that I knew I wasn't feeling well, so I knew it was a slim chance of me playing. But I don't know, just preparing with Blake, watching how hard he worked during that time, watching extra film with him, and just watching him go out there and have fun and just play well. That was exciting for me. That kind of put a big smile on my face just seeing a guy like that just sit back and work and to go unnoticed, and just to see him work. It was exciting for me. Then just to see those guys push through all that adversity. I mean, it literally came down to the last play. Just the energy and the vibes I felt that through the entire game from everybody just constantly fighting. I mean, that was a great feeling. Even though I was on the sideline, just to know that I was still a part of that team, was able to watch that team, that was good enough for me, honestly. It wasn't about me at that time. It was about the team. So the team got it done. I'm more than excited to be a part of it.
The second part was, do you feel you and the team have something to prove this weekend?
Yes, we do. That's something we always will have. Every game, every time we touch the field, something to prove. We got something to prove at practice today. I think this is a big opportunity for us. This is a big game for us, and I think everybody's excited to play. And we know that we owe it to ourselves to win this game, so we're going to go out there and do what we got to do.
Next, we'll go to Chris Williams from KWTX News in Waco.
Hey, Gary, you said that when you were injured, obviously you had a new perspective, saw things a little differently. What are some things you picked up or maybe learned from watching on the sideline injured that will now help you play a little bit better?
Really, I would say just watching things from the sideline perspective. Honestly, if you can stay ahead of the chains, you give yourself a better chance. That's the biggest thing for me. It's like just not forcing things, taking what defense gives you. Just stand ahead of the chains, whether it's a 3-play drive or a 15-play drive. Just stay ahead of the chains. I mean, one other thing is I've always heard that the game is a game of inches. The game is really a game of inches. So I would say that's something I pay big attention to and kind of grasp. But yeah, I learned a lot on just being on the sideline. I also learned just to be more vocal in how talking to people different ways and just seeing how different guys respond to certain things. That gave me a better mindset about a lot of guys. Just how open they were, how hard they fought. Because I know I'm always out there with them in it, but this time I was not in it with them technically. But I just know now that I'm back with them, I know exactly what we need, the type of energy we're gonna play with, those kind of things. So.
Next is Jack Allen from KXXV TV in Waco.
Hey, Gary, I was just wondering, you've had a long time to watch film on this Ole Miss defense. What have you seen out of them that maybe we can expect in this game?
They're a physical defense. They play really hard. They have some really good athletes on that side of the ball. I would say, honestly, they play really, really hard. They're really, really physical. They bring quite a bit of pressure. They're gonna heat you up a little bit. Just honestly, they know they have good players, so they do certain things they're gonna do multiple times because they just know that they have good players. So I think we just have to take advantage of what they do. Make sure we pick up on their blitzes and just take advantage of everything they give us, knowing what coverage they're in. Just because they're really athletic, so a team like that don't have to do too many different things, or a team that don't have to really disguise anything because they know they have the players that gonna make the play. So
next is David Ubben from The Athletic.
Gary, Coach Rhymes mentioned that he was talking a lot about winning the Big 12 before the season. Was that something before the season that you believed and saw as realistic, and why or why not?
Oh, yeah. I know it was really realistic. We talked about it all the time before the season. It was the goal. The goal was accomplished. We still got a ways to go. And I just knew just the energy around the facility. Coach Vic and his staff came in. The offseason we had the bonds that were created in the offseason, just to understand it between the coaches and the players. I would say just the vibes and the culture that we were developing, we knew we were going to be a good team. That's the thing about this university, this football team. The culture is like how we talk about how we play. Like everything we talk about, we're going to play that way. We're going to play physical. We're going to play dominant. We're going to play fast. Like it's just everything that we wanted to instill. It was instilled. And I mean, guys just were hungry. Coming off a 2-7 season last year, we knew that wasn't our standard. We knew what we needed to do to improve. So just working out with everybody and practicing in the offseason, we knew that we had the opportunity to win it, and the goal was to win it, and we won it. So
we'll now go to Eric Kelly with KWKT TV in Waco.
Yeah, real quick, going back to the Big 12 championship game, obviously Coach Aranda's reaction on that final play went a little bit viral on the internet. Do you guys get a kick out of that? And does he ever get mad or excited, or is that just him all the time?
That's Coach Aranda all the time. No matter the situation, no matter what is going on, that's Coach Aranda. I mean, we all know that, though. At first, it was like, wow, man, but that's him, so we're just excited for him. I mean, he's our leader, man. Now, we know that's how he is, but we know when he's excited. We know he's not going to be all, wow, but he's going to be excited. So when you talk to him, you know how excited he is. He really loves football, so things like that he can get really excited about, but he does a good job holding it in, keeping his composure. So,
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Bellmead locations. With bright open lobbies, plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to betus.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'EM125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'EM200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, betus.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
We're now joined by former Baylor wide receiver, played in the NFL with Washington, and of course sideline reporter for Baylor Radio, Ricky Thompson, Sick'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. So, you know, the bowl season, and it's hit and miss. We've seen teams that have had their games canceled, teams that have had to pull out, new games that have been put together. Ricky, it looks like everything's a go. Your thoughts about just getting to Saturday and playing this game between Ole Miss and Baylor?
Well, you know what, Smoke? Right now, that's the most important thing. Just trying to keep guys healthy, being careful about it. I know it was a struggle trying to decide to let these kids go home for Christmas. But you know what? This team is built on family. I think it really is. So I think they made the right decision letting those guys go home. And hopefully they were smart enough to stay safe as possible. I mean, I don't think any of us know exactly what safe is anymore. But hopefully they're going to be in good shape. It sounds like they are so far. I know they'll contain those guys while they're here, get over to New Orleans here on Wednesday. And I fully expect this game to be played.
It seems like they haven't played in forever, and it's been almost a month, honestly, since will be almost a month since they beat Oklahoma State for the Big 12 championship. Looking back, you've had time, maybe you have, and others I know I have as well, to look back and kind of reflect back on the accomplishment of what this team did, that what they were able to get accomplished. What does it mean where they are right now, Ricky?
Well, I tell you what, with this new football facility coming in, that is going to be more than first class, and to come off of a Big 12 championship, one that we all know wasn't particularly expected. Maybe it was expected by those guys in the building, but not outside the building. I think it's huge. And even the way they did it, let's look back at that championship game now and think about the second half. We're sitting there wondering, man, why aren't we throwing the ball? Why aren't we? Well, now we know why we weren't throwing the ball. Mm-hmm. We had a quarterback who was playing with a shoulder that was blown out of socket, Imagine that kid being out one play, Smoke, one play, and comes back in the game and plays knowing he's going to get hit again, some form or fashion. He's going to get hit again. That took away the running game with him. It took away most of the throwing game with him. And we still managed to win that football game. I just think it's remarkable to look back at the whole picture as we know it now and think those guys held on and won that game. Big 12 champions. This is a team that surprised us year in, just throughout the year. Iowa State blew Brigham Young out. I think that's when we really found out they were pretty darn good, and then really dominated Oklahoma.
Yeah, the Brigham Young game, and obviously the win against Iowa State because of a lot of the hype they had, and deservedly so, but then to follow it up with what they were able to do, and how this team, and where they are. And now you look back, Jeff Grimes today spoke with the media, so did some offensive players. Tomorrow it's Ron Roberts, defensive players, as they kind of flip back and forth between Ole Miss and Baylor. What about the arrival? When you heard that they were going to bring in Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos, I immediately started just jamming my head with information about what they did at Brigham Young. And I'm thinking, yeah, but that's Brigham Young, and they had better players, at least as far as on the offensive line and the running back or whatever. Could you ever have imagined a completely different three times more yards rushing or whatever it is per game with what they did?
No, absolutely not. And I did the same thing you did. I started reading about this wide zone. I liked it because it gives you a lot of freedom as a running back to cut back, find your own holes. Offensive line, they know what they're doing. They're pushing these guys out. It's the back's job to find the hole. Makes it easier on the offensive line. And to me, if you've got a back that can find those spaces and can turn up field, you can be pretty good. But I think at that point, we didn't know if we had that back. And then heaven knows we found him out of a linebacker in Abram Smith.
Yep.
He's had an unbelievable year that you and I didn't even know was going to be a running back. And then I tell you the other thing it did, it made Treston Ebner a better running back too. And I think Abram Smith had a lot to do with that, with what Treston was able to see him do, because I think you guys picked it up too. Later in the year, Treston was running tougher than he's run before. He always had the speed to get outside, but we saw him turn it up and take guys on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he's a great receiver out of the backfield. And then I think Gary Bohannon absolutely exceeded expectations. I mean, he did of mine just as a first-year guy. I just don't know that he could have been any better.
Well, you mentioned Gary Bohannon, and you did mention what Blake Shapen was dealing with, especially in that second half against Oklahoma State, despite the fact that they had to hang on by their claws thanks to Jaron McVay. But, you know, I thought Gary Bohannon, and that was a wild card. And you're going against Ole Miss, and they've got Corral, who's a fantastic player and one of the leading Heisman candidates about midway through the year. But getting Gary back, despite what Blake Shapen did, how much do you feel like that might help?
Well, I think it helps. I think Blake is a really, really good quarterback, and that's really shown by the third play goes in against Kansas State. We're going for 4th and 6. And this was with the kid that was holding the clipboard 3 plays earlier. So we know what they think of Blake Shapen. But I think Gary is the one that got him here. He's the one that played these games early. Again, go back to the Oklahoma game. I really think his rushing ability was the difference in that game on offense. He had 2 touchdown runs, and I think that was the difference. So I think it's good that Gary's back. I think the height difference, 6 foot to 6'3", is different. I think the confidence that these guys have in him. Of course, I just really hate the fact that Blake probably isn't going to be available at all, just for his sake. That I think he would have probably gotten in the game some, even with Gary starting. But anyway, I think Gary Bohannon is the leader of this offensive football team, and I am so happy he's got the shot to be back.
Yeah, and of course, 2 years ago, played in the Big 12 title game, lost to Oklahoma, so close on a Chris Platt touchdown if he could have just gotten another half a yard away from a guy that won the 100 meters in Oklahoma. And then, of course, they played in the Sugar Bowl. Do you now, looking back, feel like, and Matt Rule even told me this on the day that it was announced he was headed to the NFL, I asked him, do you feel now that perhaps some of the stuff swirling affected your team against Georgia? Nothing against Georgia. Georgia was really good, and we now see how good they are. Do you feel like that some of that might have led to kind of a lethargic outing in the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago?
I don't think. I know it did. I'm on the field, as you know, and you can. I played the game for a lot of years, Smoking. I've been around teams on the field, and I can go all the way back to the Fiesta Bowl years ago against UCF. A lot of the same feeling on the field as it was then. So, yeah, it affected it. Those players knew it. I think they knew what was coming. And whether coaches admit it or not, it affects their prep. It just does. They're human beings, and there's no way that it can't. And I am so glad there's none of that in any direction involved with this football team right now. And I just really look for good things over there. I think this may be one of the better bowl games of all of them put together, including the playoff games, because you've got two really good, evenly matched football teams.
Yeah, there's been two bowl games in which there were high hopes. Baylor against UCF out in Phoenix, and that was the year that we heard all about UT and Art Briles, and there's no question that team also enjoyed that week a little bit too much, and they blew a tire, and then the Sugar Bowl, they just kind of were lethargic with some of the stuff swirling around the NFL and Coach Rule. Now, that leads me to my last question. I had a list here in front of me, but I'm going to name them off the top of my head. Notre Dame, Oregon, Washington, USC, LSU, Oklahoma, Florida, and maybe one or two others have had coaching openings in the last month, 2 or 3. Dave Aranda never blinked, despite reports that he was targeted or that anything else was happening. He never once blinked. What does that say about Dave Aranda, and what does that say as well, Ricky, about where Baylor is right now with their football program?
Well, it just is what they are right now, and it's a coach that very clearly from the start, if you really listen to him, said, I'm not going.
Mm-hmm.
He said it in every way possible that he could, but our obvious reaction is, yeah, that's what everybody else is saying too. But I think he clearly, and now that we've gone through that progress, Smoke, I think it's great that we did, because now when he says something, I think people will listen.
Absolutely.
Because he clearly meant he wasn't going. Mac Rhodes has done a good job with his contract stuff. I know that it was very important for Dave Aranda to get more money for those assistants, and they've done that. I think this staff is very stable. I think that Coach Aranda is going to be here for a number of years, and stability, even in the business world that I'm in now, it's all about stability with good people. And right now, I think Baylor football is very stable with really good people. And you just listed a long line of football teams there that aren't.
Hey, Ricky, thank you, man. We'll see you in New Orleans soon. Thanks for your time. Ricky Thompson, Happy New Year. I'm not Merry Christmas, I guess, a little bit late, and Happy New Year a little bit early. Ricky, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Ricky,
thanks, guys. Look forward to seeing you in New Orleans.
Baylor sideline reporter for Baylor Radio, former Baylor wide receiver, played in the NFL with Washington, with us to discuss Dave Aranda, Baylor, the Sugar Bowl, and more. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
The all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock. The beautiful, luxurious, elegant third-row seating carries the prestigious Jeep heritage. First responders get an extra $500. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $2,400 or 0% for 72 months. It's the Big Finish sales event now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
As you know, bowl season continues, and North Texas is a part of a bowl. Did not win it, but what a year it's been for Seth Luttrell and the North Texas football program, and one of the best, in fact, our best friend when it comes to this show, Phil Bennett, North Texas defensive coordinator. Merry Christmas, Coach. How you doing?
Merry Christmas to you, David. I'm good.
Good. And in fact, you just told me you're staying in shape. You're working out. I know you run a little bit. So let's discuss, first of all, bowl season. We've seen some games that have been canceled. I think it's now up to 5, and some that have shifted opponents to go to a different game. Are we doing this right, Phil? Is the protocol correct right now? I know they're trying to maybe cut back on the isolation period.
You know, Smoke, I'm not sure. We ended up losing 2 of our best offensive player and maybe our best defensive player. But I don't have the answer to that. I just know that they're trying to keep everybody safe.
And I sure wouldn't want the job of trying to do it. I told my wife last night, I am just so hopeful and prayers and got my fingers crossed that we could get through this bowl season, especially the championship season, with the best players getting to play and feeling good about it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's start, though, again, the accomplishment, which we spoke with you about after you had beaten UT San Antonio and you get to a bowl game. How I saw where Seth, and I think maybe the AD, whoever, got some bonus money for it, obviously well earned. Hopefully that sprinkled down a little bit. What did that mean to the program?
Well, I think, where we were after losing so many guys early in the season with season-ending injuries, I think it spoke a lot about Seth's leadership, about our young players. I think I told you this. When we played UTSA, they had 38 seniors. We had 8. And that's a vast difference of experience and youth. And we also, when we played Miami, who was a seasoned team, we were the much younger team. So I think the future bodes well for North Texas.
Phil, there's a difference now in how many games a team might have to play. Obviously, Alabama's used to it. It's almost like in high school football where certain programs go 4, 5, 6 rounds deep. People want to be at that level, and yet again, it can be a grind and attrition. At the same time, it's incredible experience for extra practices and experience. Isn't that what that is in the end?
Absolutely. I mean, football is the most regulated sport in the NCAA. We get the least amount of time with our players. Some people don't understand that. I think you probably do. And that extra 15 bowl practice is you get 2 spring trainings. You get a fall spring training, then you get a spring training. And I think it really helps your younger guys. They've had a full season. And I know this from being a player. When I first came to A&M, I told my dad, I don't know if I'll ever get to play here. And then all of a sudden, your thoughts and how things work, and you see what you've got to do to be a player, and you evolve. And I think you never take out the development part of a program, and I think that's what the bowl season is.
2 years ago, Baylor went to the Sugar Bowl and ran into Georgia, and there was also some of the clouds of what was going on with possibly Matt Rule. It started simmering again with the NFL. And here they are 2 years later with Dave Aranda following 2-7. What kind of an accomplishment is that for Dave Aranda and his staff?
Oh, it's outstanding. I mean, I got a chance to watch them this year. And I told you, I've known Jeff Grimes since he played at UTEP. And I just felt like that the whole staff did an outstanding, led by Dave. Didn't let things bother him. They made some changes. They moved the Smith kid to running back. I just think it was a major accomplishment, and that wound up with maybe the most prolific play in Baylor's history in the Big 12 championship game.
So let's discuss the playoff semifinals. Cincinnati, we know that's a great story. In fact, a school like yours, North Texas, and anybody that's a part of the group of 5 has to be thrilled that they broke through. They have, of course, the 800-pound gorilla in Nick Saban in Alabama, then Michigan and Georgia with what the job Michigan's done. Let's start with Cincinnati. 2 touchdown underdogs. That's not a surprise. They're pretty good, aren't they, Phil?
Well, I want to refresh your memory. Luke Fickell's done a wonderful job, but Luke will be the first person to tell you. A year ago in the Sugar Bowl, they have Georgia beat. I mean, the game is over if he just runs the ball. And he decided to throw it to get a first down. It gave, instead of giving them the ball back with I think 13 seconds, he gave them the ball back with 50 seconds, and it cost him the game on a field goal, which they pretty much, I wouldn't say dominated, but they were definitely outplaying Georgia most of the game in that Sugar Bowl. So I think they're the real deal. And I think anytime you get into this one-game playoff, they're very good at quarterback. They're fast on defense. I think it will be a good game. Obviously, I think that Alabama, if Young is playing the way he's been playing since, I guess, the fourth quarter of the Auburn game, it'll be interesting to see. And like I said, I think without question they deserve to be there.
What about the consistency? And I know he gets whoever he wants. It doesn't mean they win every recruiting battle, but they pretty much get whoever they want, and there's enough of them out there that Alabama just reloads with these five-star players and these blue-chip players, and, of course, his system. We've seen dynasties before, Coach, many times. You've been a part of teams that have had the history of a dynasty before. Why now? Why is Alabama doing this when it seems like parity, maybe not the right word parity, but that college football seems to be so evenly matched?
Well, I think Nick's system is tried and proven. And one of the things, I'm a friend of Nick's. I've known him. We grew up coaching together. Nick hadn't changed his thought process in the fundamentals. Now, he has changed in a lot of other things. That's why he's been successful. He's evolved. But he knows that kids thrive on fundamentals and consistency and coaching. He coaches hard. And kids know if they go there that he's going to get the best out of them. And consequently, getting the best out of them means the NFL, so many other avenues as they leave Alabama. And people don't realize, his first or second year at Alabama, Northeast Louisiana, UL Monroe beat Alabama. Mm-hmm. And so, it hasn't always been this way. But, he reminds me a lot of Coach Bill Snyder. Coach Snyder used to tell us every day, when a kid knows what to expect and you're consistent with how you coach him, how you treat him, he said good things to happen. And I think Nick and his program are a great example of that. I loved Bryce Young and his parents at the Heisman. Mm-hmm. I just think they validated what Alabama's about when they talked about, hey, you know what, he never promised me anything. He promised me a chance. And so many kids nowadays, you can look at, the Oklahoma quarterback said they were promised things and it didn't materialize. And Bryce said, I was promised a chance and I just wanted to make the most of it. I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, I did. I thought that was as well. And again, they did not look good at all. Auburn had them dead to rights. If a young man doesn't go out of bounds to stop the clock, they probably win.
Game's over.
But he did, and then Alabama was able to go 97 yards to do that. Now, Georgia, how much does it take for them to get off the canvas? And obviously they're right back in it because they have the semifinals with Michigan, but they got knocked down badly by Alabama. How quickly do you feel like that takes to get back up off the canvas when you've been, blowing people out?
Well, I think one thing concerns me is Dan Lanning is leaving, going to Oregon. I've been in those situations. I've been there. And that's why I chose not to stay. And Dan's going to coach the game, and Dan's a good young coach. I just worry about, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I will say this. I think without question, Todd Monken is a very good offensive coordinator. I think Bennett will play better than he played against Alabama. I'm concerned about, I will say this too. I think Michigan has proved over and over again during the year that they're a team to be dealt with, and I think they're exceptionally talented. They stop the run. They can run the ball. Their quarterback is high touchdown, low turnover ratio. So that could be a really good game.
Man, I'm happy. I'm not the biggest fan of Jim Harbaugh, but I'm happy for him because he's been beating that door over and over and over again, and he finally hammers Ohio State the ways he does it. It's really, really cool. Jeff Lebby, Ole Miss, Baylor, Sugar Bowl, back to that game. How much does this game – I know there's another guy with 1 foot out the door at Oklahoma obviously with Brent Venables. How much do you think this game means to him because of the fact he was at Baylor?
Oh, I think it means a lot. I do. I think Jeff was very proud of working at Baylor and what we did at Baylor. But I feel like this is a game. I remember 2 years ago, he called me. I think Baylor and when Matt Rule was there, they were supposed to open up in Houston. Wasn't that right? Like 2 years ago, and they got canceled.
Yeah, they were going to. In fact, they were going to open up with Ole Miss last year.
That's what I mean. That's what it was. Yeah, and so and at that time he wasn't sure about Matt where he was, The thing I looked at this game, and obviously I talked to a lot of people, Jeff being one of them, he wanted to coach this game. So I think being regional, and I will say this about Art's offense, and Jeff runs it, his game calling is not going to change. Baylor's going to have a look, and I know for sure. I'm trying to do comparison of games. Baylor struggled a little bit this year with Doug Meacham at TCU with the tempo and stuff. And I'm going to tell you, they better get ready because Ole Miss will be lightning fast. They probably won't sub much to give them a chance to sub. And Roberts better have his calls down pat, simple to get lined up because it's going to be fast. Now the other thing that sort of plays into that, if you look at the A&M Ole Miss game, I think the first half Ole Miss had 418 yards offense. But if you're giving up that many points, you got to play great red zone defense. And the Aggies were able to keep it close because they played good red zone defense, and that's what I think Baylor's going to have to do. And it's going to be on the other side of the ball to see if you can get ball control. Mm-hmm. But the thing about ball control is you've got to score.
Yeah.
I mean, field goals aren't going to help you when other teams are scoring in 2 minutes. You're keeping the ball 6 or 7 minutes. So that's going to be a big key in the game to see if they can. I don't think Ole Miss by any stretch. I think they've improved on defense, but I don't think they're a defense that's going to scare anybody.
Well, and I brought this up. I was on a radio station out of Louisiana earlier today, and I mentioned that this game, to me, the key word, you mentioned it, is tempo. Who controls the tempo? And you don't have to control it, but I do think that Baylor's running game with Abram Smith, it looks like Bohannon's going to get the start. He's back. Shapen's out. Hurt his shoulder in that game with Oklahoma State in the championship game, and he was brilliant for a couple of weeks. But it appears as if the running game, because you faced this, you were on this type of game before with what you had to face almost in practice every day, but other games in the Big 12, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, how the Big 12 has evolved. I would say that there's not as many of those teams that are tempo like this, and I think you're dead right. I think that the ability to the other thing that becomes crucial is red zone. When you get in the red zone, field goals, obviously you want to score, but you got to score touchdowns. And I would say that for both teams. The ones that are able to score the touchdowns in the red zone. Now, Ole Miss has a little bit of a history right now. They're scoring out of the red zone. So the thing that Baylor's got to do is not give up the big play for points. And then, like you said, when they get in the red zone and control the ball, finish the drives off.
One more thing. Phil Bennett, North Texas defensive coordinator with us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Oklahoma, LSU, Notre Dame, USC, Washington, Oregon, and Florida have had job openings. And there have been a couple of times where there was a writer, a columnist, or whoever that mentioned that Dave Aranda was being targeted. And yet I'm pretty much told that he never blinked, that he didn't look at the prettiest or richest girl in the room, that he was pretty much set to stay with Baylor, and they're about to redo and restructure and also take care of his staff as well. What does that say about Dave Aranda?
Well, he's a unique guy in today's environment in college football. And you and I have talked about this. The game of college football, in my opinion, is at a crossroads. With this, all the transferring and NIL, I think Baylor's a safe place to be. I think they have and I've always said this, they have a high commitment level. And the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I think that you want to be at a place that you know who and what you're dealing with. And I think Dave sees that. I think he sees his family being very comfortable. Waco is the people outside of Texas don't understand what a great place Waco, Texas is. And it's getting bigger, it's getting better, and it's still got that friendly, Central Texas environment. And I think Dave, truthfully, he hasn't told me this, but I just think he sees a comfort zone there. I think Mac Rose sees a comfort zone there. And, we saw it. I saw it. It's a wonderful place. And I just don't think if any of those jobs were better than what he's got.
Do you think because of the success Scott Drew's had, the length of sticking at a place and rebuilding what they were when he first started, and even Art may never have left, and then Kim Mulkey, she leaves because eventually just kind of that time. Does that help knowing that happened?
Just to go home, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so. And I think, Scott went there. I mean, my God, could you have come on any worse conditions than him? It's just an amazing story, but instead of making excuses, he created a juggernaut of a program. And I think, I said that, I've been there. Baylor, Waco, and just the support system are all in place. And I think, too, that Dave was hired by Mac. And even though I wasn't there a great amount of time with Mac, I really enjoyed him. He's honest, easy to talk to, under adverse conditions. And I think he's been very good for Baylor.
Hey, man, thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. See you again
Same
around
to
the other
you.
side. You too, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate
All right.
your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's North Texas defensive coordinator Phil Bennett. Finished a workout, jumped on the phone with us here on this Tuesday afternoon. Hey, later on, I'll let you know a little bit more about this. We're going to hear from Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, part of the Baylor sideline reporter for the Baylor radio. Also, we'll hear from some of the media sessions. Of course, you've heard already one or two. You'll hear more as the Sugar Bowl coming up on Saturday as that continues in New Orleans. We will be there. Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims, Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, and me. We'll be there. We'll all be there starting Wednesday, broadcasting from the Media Hotel at the Marriott, and Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday bring you the atmosphere and the buildup of Baylor and Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Genco has extended their offer till the end of the year. Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months. And have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. You can't pass on rates this low and make no payments for 90 days. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Hey there, it's Jay from Pickup Outfitters with a holiday public service announcement for all the wives and significant others out there looking for Christmas gift ideas for their man. They say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. At Pickup Outfitters, we say the way to a man's heart is through his truck. And there's no better Christmas gift for the man in your life than something for his truck. Would your man rather have a new bathrobe or bumper or a cool light bar, socks or a lift kit, a new wallet or new running boards? The answer seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Pickup Outfitters is your Christmas gift headquarters. Why get your man a hoodie when you can get him a slick new retractable bed cover? So don't waste money on a meat thermometer or sweatpants when you can get him a gift certificate for anything he wants for his truck. That's the way to get to a man's heart. Stop by Pickup Outfitters at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco or check us out on the web at createacommotion.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sic 'em Bears.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sic 'em 365 Radio.
Motion and a fake, and he's hit as he throws, and it's intercepted. Jaron McVay had it fall right in his hands. It was Braden Utley who delivered the hit on Sanders, who's thrown his third pick of the day.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoke.
Welcome back for the 4 o'clock hour, Sic 'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Once again, we will be live from New Orleans and Sugar Bowl activities and coverage starting tomorrow. It will be Armstrong Sims and Jack McKenzie, along with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, and I'll be there as well, thanks to our amazing sponsors, and we'll be lit up with coverage of the Sugar Bowl and, of course, the upcoming semifinal games and much more. Jeff Grimes, Baylor's offensive coordinator, what a story. He and Eric Mateos from Brigham Young, they arrive. Last year's offense, they had 812 yards, total yards rushing. This year, Baylor more than tripled that number at 214 yards per game compared to 90. And there is obviously a connection to Jeff Grimes, the offensive coordinator, and offensive line coach Eric Mateos, and Grimes available to discuss the Sugar Bowl, Baylor, Gary Bohannon, and their game with Ole Miss.
Yeah, I would just say really excited about this bowl personally. I've never been to it, been to a lot of bowl games, and obviously this is a great opportunity for our team, an opportunity for us to, I think, make a statement about the kind of team that we are. And I've always felt that bowl games really say something about the mindset of your team, particularly at the end of the season. And so we're looking forward to the opportunity to say something about who we are as an offense and the kind of team that we are.
Okay, our first question is from John Werner with the Waco Tribune-Herald.
Hi, Coach Grimes. How is Gary coming along? Can you maybe just comment a little bit about his progression over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I would say it started off a little bit slow for a couple of reasons. One, that hamstring wasn't quite back at full strength when he came back to practice, and he was just trying to work his way back into it. And, you know, anytime you're an athletic player, especially at the quarterback position, you know, you rely on your legs just to move around and even to throw through and follow through and do those kind of things. But I think he's at or very close to full speed now. Took him a little while to kind of knock the rust off, but I anticipate that he'll be at full speed for the game, and I anticipate him playing well.
Next is Curtis Quillen from KCN TV in Waco.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned wanting to prove a point about the type of offense you guys are and the type of team you guys are against a team like Ole Miss. What is it exactly that you're hoping to prove with this new look offense in your first year at Baylor against Ole Miss?
Well, I think it's a great team, and so every week is an opportunity to make a statement about who you are when you play against somebody that's good. And so I think it's just one more opportunity for us to show that we're a good team and a good offense and that we're for real. But I think just as much, and I would imagine that Coach Aranda would say the same thing, the way we play is just as important as playing well or winning the game. And so playing clean, controlling the things that we can control on offense in particular. I think about the turnovers. I think about not having any foolish penalties. I think about playing a physical brand of football, really an opportunity to show one more time what we try to be all about. And that I think says something about our personality and our identity.
We'll now go to Ted Lewis from the New Orleans Times-Picayune.
Yes, Jeff, a couple of subjects. First of all, how was your relationship with Dave forged during your time together at LSU? And what did he have to do to persuade you to leave a good situation at BYU? And secondly, could you talk about Abram Smith and just how guys don't move over from linebacker to running back, and could you have foreseen what kind of year he was going to have?
I think you worked 4 questions into 2 right there, but I'm going to try to answer all of them. So Dave and I at LSU, worked together and had a very professional relationship. But being on opposite sides of the ball, didn't know each other all that well, but I had a great respect for him as a person and as a coach. And then in terms of me coming here, there were a number of things that made this a great fit for me. I'm from Texas. My wife is from Texas. Haven't been back to live in over 20 years. And so an opportunity to come back home, an opportunity to coach at a great place like Baylor, I think a place that really fits me. And then I believed in Dave. I believe in who he is as a person and a leader. And so working for him was a real positive for me. Abe, a great story. I've told this many times. He's one of my favorite players. But almost all the way through spring practice, I felt like we weren't getting what we needed out of the run game. I wanted to have a physical nature to our offense, and we couldn't do that with our wide zone scheme without having a physical presence at running back. And I didn't feel like we were moving fast enough. And so I was complaining about not having what we needed. And one of our staff members, David Wetzel, who's a longtime high school football coach, said to me, "Have you ever seen Abe run with the ball?" Because Abe was playing linebacker at the time. And I said, "No, I didn't even know he played running back." He said, "Yeah, he was a really good running back in high school." And he said, "I know what you're looking for. I know how you're looking for a downhill back that will be productive and consistent and physical for you." And he's that. And so I walked upstairs to Ron Roberts, our defensive coordinator, and without mentioning any names, just said, "I'm really kind of frustrated with our run game. Is there anybody on defense that you think could help us?" And without hesitation, he said, "Yeah, Abe could." And I said, "Well, I know he's playing for you at linebacker." And he said, "It doesn't matter. If he's got a chance to be your best running back, then you should take him." And so I took him the next day. We had 4 or 5 practices left in spring ball, and it was evident that he could be really, really productive in what we wanted to do with the run game. And then he moved over and really has been just, in a lot of ways, kind of the heart and soul of our offense. I don't think we do much without his leadership, without his toughness, without his style of play.
We'll go to David Ubben from The Athletic.
Yeah, Jeff, I know you weren't here obviously last year, but what is the sense that you've gotten on what this ride has meant to the guys on this roster after the way last season went?
Yeah, without talking about last year, I would just say that, anytime you have an opportunity to win your conference, that's a really big deal. And our guys have really bought into that. And from day one, we started talking about playing in the championship. And I think it's been something that, if you're really focused from game to game, then you give yourself an opportunity to do that. But yeah, I think there's a real appreciation for it, or an appreciation for being a part of a team that's winning and has a chance to be in this position at this point in the year.
Next, we'll go to Jerry Hill from Baylor Bear Insider.
Hey, Jeff, wondering what your bowl game approach is. Do you do what you do, or, do you try to tweak some things and maybe throw some things out there?
I think the bowl game is very similar to what we do every week. I think if you're successful on either side of the ball, it's because you have an identity, and it's because you have something that you believe in. Each week, you tweak some things a little bit. So you might do something a little bit differently than what you've done before. You might run this play from a 3-by-1 formation instead of a 2-by-2 formation, or maybe we do it in 11 personnel instead of 12 personnel. And there's a little bit more time in between games. And so some guys probably change a little bit more or do a little bit more. And I would say we would tend towards the former more so than the latter. We'll treat this more like a usual game with maybe a couple more tweaks.
Next is Eric Kelly from KWKT TV in Waco.
Hey, Coach, coming in, you probably have, all these ideas and goals of what you want to accomplish with this offense. But what was the thing that maybe you're even a little pleasantly surprised with, maybe even from 6 months ago to now, about what has gone so right offensively?
I think just, and it's kind of coach speak, I guess, but it's true. Just the culture, the willingness of these guys to buy into what we asked them to do. It was something completely different. And I think without that willingness, there was a real eagerness right away to say, hey, coach me and teach me how to be successful in this scheme. And I think without that, you don't have a chance to have success. And then I think the mindset that has come with that has been one that said, I feel like we can, from a player's perspective, we feel like we can go out and score points on anybody. And we've been at times really good this year, and at other times not quite as good as we would like to be. But I think there's been that belief that we can go out and play with anybody. And so I think that belief and that confidence is the source and the evidence of what allows you to have success.
Now go to Jack Allen, KXXV TV in Waco.
Hey, Coach, along those same lines, you talk about culture, you talk about buy-in. Was there a certain moment in the season that you can point to where you feel like they really turned a corner and you can point to and say, that's a moment where I really saw the buy-in happen?
Yeah, I think there have been typically in an opportunity like this where you make a change, there are a few of those. And so I can point to a couple. One was actually before the season even started. We have a really good defense here at Baylor, and that had been a real challenge for us offensively to make a turnaround, just because we had to compete against a really good, experienced defense in practice every day, and one that's had that system in place for a year. And so there were a lot of challenges during spring ball, and moments when I remember my wife, after one of our spring scrimmages, I come home and she goes, "Wow, we got a long way to go." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Are you sure we ought to actually do this addition on the house?" And she's been around a lot of football, and so she saw and recognized that we had a ways to go. But in those scrimmages, I think it was a challenge for us that we had to overcome, a hurdle. And then I think it was our second scrimmage of fall camp this year. We kind of had a really good day, and the offense probably for the first time had a scrimmage where we did what we had hoped we would do against our defense. And there was a difference after that. The guys kind of felt like, okay, we can do this, and this thing's really going to work. And then I think just a couple of our early season games against conference opponents really helped us take a step forward. Obviously, the Iowa State game was a big win for us, and then coming out soon after that, and not only winning against West Virginia, but scoring a lot of points and winning big. I think both of those were real milestones.
We have time for one final question. This is from Sam Kahn from The Athletic.
Hey, Jeff, wanted to ask you a little bit about Gary. I know he went through, I think, almost the first half of the season without an interception. What have you seen from him as he's grown in this offense, and what are the best qualities that he brings that have made him successful for you guys this year?
Well, I think the things that make him successful are the things that earned him the job. And so he's just become more and more of himself, and his confidence, his toughness, his grit, his willingness to work. Those are the things that earned him this position. And he was in quite a battle for the starting quarterback job, as you and most people that have covered our team know. But I remember him way back during fall camp. I'd show up early in the morning and he's here watching film, not in a way that anyone would notice, just in the quarterback room with the door shut, watching film, 6 a.m. And then I get ready to go home at 11 at night and he's still in there watching film. And I remember telling him, man, you got to go home and get some sleep. This is a long fall camp. And he said, Coach, I can sleep when I've won this position. I got work to do. And that kind of confidence and work ethic is what's brought him to the point where he is. And he's a guy that from the beginning bet on himself. When many people didn't think he would be a college quarterback, he came to a place where he knew he could play quarterback and compete, and just kept working even when it didn't go his way early. And so that persistence and that belief in himself and that toughness are the things that really make him who he is. And then obviously he's developed as a passer, he's developed as a leader, and all those things have come, but it really starts with what he is inside.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra, see dealer for details.
Get the quality pre-owned car you need now at a price you can afford at Richard Car. Find great deals like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $225 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $438 a month. Plus, get top dollar for your trade now. Richard Car. Pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and our aggressive lenders say yes when others say no. Find your next car or truck at Richard Car today.
At Richard Car, we give you more.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's Triple X Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's Margaritas and Mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's Triple X Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
I've already discussed the running game with what happens with Baylor, and we've discussed, that's been really one of the biggest stories of the year, not just 2-7 to now 11-2 and winning the Big 12 title in the Sugar Bowl against Ole Miss. Terrence Ganaway, in the year that RG3 won the Heisman Trophy, broke the single-season rushing record at Baylor with 1,547 yards. Number 2 on that list for the longest of time since 2015 was Chuck Linwood with 1,329 yards. And how about Abram Smith? 1,429 yards so far with a game to go, 119 yards away from breaking the single-season rushing record set by, again, Terrence Ganaway in 2011. He went off against the University of Washington in the Alamo Bowl in San Antonio. Again, that was the RG3 Heisman Trophy team as well that went 10-3. So Abram Smith, if in fact Baylor can establish the run, and if they can dictate the tempo against an up-tempo Ole Miss team, who knows? Might set the single-season rushing record. And this is really his first year of playing running back, because remember, he moved the linebacker. And then during the offseason, they were looking for a one-cut. The wide zone offense needed somebody besides Treston Ebner, John Lovitz at Penn State. Who could it be? And it's Abram Smith. And what a story it's been for him.
Hi, Abram. What does it mean to the team to have Gary back and just the confidence he brings?
Means a lot. You know, he's started out with him, a real big leader on the team, not only on offense, but just on the team, period. So just to have him back and healthy, you can kind of see him in practice. You know, he's taking strides kind of like with running. So just having him back is a real big, I think I want to say an up on the offense pretty much, because, you know, you're having that kind of timing back, and you see him working hard and kind of pushing everybody like, you know, how it was before.
Next, we'll go to David Ubben from The Athletic.
Abram, Coach Grimes was mentioning that very early on, you guys were talking about a title and winning this league. What do you remember about the first time that you kind of heard those conversations, and what has it been like to be there and have that come from become a reality where it started as a talking point?
For it to become a reality is, I mean, even now, like, to me, it's still like unreal. You know, it's like you kind of talk about it a bunch, but like actually doing it is like it's like a different level of like we're here. Like we actually, you know, said what we did, what we say we were going to do. So like just with Coach Grimes, just bringing that all, like at the beginning when we first started the boat and all that, you know, just with him, he was real big on, like, he knew what he wanted to do. He had goals for us. So like just binding and all that was kind of just what we wanted to do.
Next, we'll go to Nikki Latarullo from KCN in Waco.
do you have any specific pregame rituals that you do, like something specific to eat before every game, or like any superstitions, anything like that?
I usually eat some pineapples. It's like always a big thing for me. I always like to try to like fill my system up. I'll usually, if possible, if they get in beforehand, I'll usually try to find my mom if they're able to get in. But other than that, I mean, I kind of just stretch off in a little corner, in the right corner of the end zone. And I'll just be on my own little zone, got my own little playlist going. But other than that, I mean, might just goof around with Treston a bunch. But other than that, that's pretty much my pregame ritual.
Next, we'll go to Ted Lewis from the New Orleans Times-Picayune.
Abram, a couple of things. First of all, do you ever miss playing linebacker? Most guys talk about they'd rather hit than be hit. And then do you find yourself maybe sort of pinching yourself, seeing here's a guy that didn't play for 3 years and all of a sudden you're an all-conference running back, you're going to the Senior Bowl and so forth, got an NFL future ahead of you?
Most of the time, I'll look over there every once in a while during practice. You know, I see like Terrell Bernard and all them just having a blast, or I'll even see them in the game. And, you know, I'm just like, man, like sometimes, yeah, do I miss doing that? Yeah, like there's here and there, like I'll have to like, all right. But at the same time, it's like, I'm kind of doing the same thing at running back because I'm running through people. So it's like, for me, coming back over is like a win-win still.
Next is Eric Kelly from KWKT TV in Waco.
Coach Grimes talked to us about how those first couple weeks he was a little unsure of what you guys were going to be like as an offense. And then he said there was one practice in kind of fall camp where maybe it clicked a little bit. Then he mentioned West Virginia as another big moment. For you, when you think about how this offense has developed, what are those moments you pick out where you're like, okay, this is when I kind of knew we were going to have things rolling on that side of the ball?
We had it was like one of our scrimmages in the fall camp. It was actually like in the turn, like I guess for the offense, you know, going against our defense, you know, and how they stopped the run and all that. Pretty much how good they are on that side of the ball. We actually had a really good scrimmage and we were connecting on, you know, on all cylinders pretty much. And so for me that was like my little turning point and, or how I saw us like knowing that what we're going to be able to do. And then if I had to pick a game out, to me, it'd be the BYU game is one I'd like to pick out because we're attacking on it all. I mean, pretty much on all areas, you know, we're throwing the ball, running the ball. And, you know, for me, that was the game that I saw us be our best.
Next is Jerry Hill from Baylor Bear Insider.
Abram, seemed like you were a little banged up at the end of the year there. How much is this, you know, 3 or 4 weeks off? How much has that helped you maybe kind of, you know, get your, you know, energy back, all that kind of thing?
These past couple of weeks has been amazing. You know, running the ball the way I run the ball, you know, it's like you take a lot of hits, you know, you give a lot of hits. So a lot of bangs, a lot of bruises. So just being able to heal and actually get my body right and everything that might have been hurting me is no longer hurting me. I was able to do treatment all the time and just kind of just get my feet underneath me pretty much. And so these past couple of weeks, it's been amazing for me and my body.
Next, go to Michael Haig from the Baylor Lariat.
Hey, Abram. You know, I know you kind of mentioned kind of goofing around with Treston a little bit, but how important will it be for you and Treston kind of to get going in that bowl game? And what tone are you looking to kind of set out of the backfield?
The same tone that we want to set every time we touch that field is we got this bully ball mentality. We like to hit first, not be hit. Just keep the chains moving, and then, you know, make people miss, run through people's faces. I mean, that's kind of like what our mentality is pretty much, and you can get it from both of us. So it's kind of like when I come off the field and when he comes off the field, it doesn't matter who's back there. It's like we got the same mentality, and that's the bully ball mentality.
We'll now go to Curtis Quillen from KCN TV in Waco.
Abram, when you moved back to running back going into the season, did you see you having the type of success both individually and as a unit that you guys did this season?
When I first started out going to running back, it was kind of like I could see where it's going. I can kind of see what Coach Grimes wants to do with this offense. So at first it was kind of like a little slow start. We didn't really know. Timing was kind of off. But eventually we ended up picking that up. And I think as as terms of like for the offense and for me, we all had goals, individual goals and then team goals, and we all just wanted to mark all those off the list. So like that was like that big drive, big motivator. It was like, we went from a lot of people would think, it was like a defensive team where it's like, all right, they play really good defense, not that good of an offense, to like we wanted to change that to where it was good on both sides of the ball.
And we'll have time for one final question from Sam Kahn from The Athletic.
Hey, Abram, when you got to Baylor, what was your vision of how it would go? I know you've played multiple positions since you've been there, but what was kind of your vision for how your career would go as compared to how it's actually played out?
My vision would be I would never have switched positions. I knew I would have to play special teams, of course, because I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people come in and do. But I knew but how I envisioned it when I first came in was like I was going to be a running back. I was going to get carries, kind of like just in terms of me in my head is like my work ethic was like, all right, I'm going to work hard here so that way I can get in these carries and, become the back that, I feel like I would be, that I am now. And so that was kind of my what I envisioned for myself before I got here.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
As we travel throughout the next couple of hours, in fact, Armstrong and Jack McKenzie will get up bright and early tomorrow, drive to New Orleans, about a 7-8 hour trip, bringing all the equipment we need, the cameras and all of everything else technically for us to set up and broadcast our show from New Orleans ahead of the Sugar Bowl between Ole Miss and Baylor. Paul Catalina will fly in tonight. Greg Smoke and I will fly in tomorrow, and we'll bring that coverage to you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then also Saturday, our pregame show before Baylor and Ole Miss as well that day. So we have a lot to get to. So we're going to leave you, at least for today, with an interview I did back, it's been a few months ago. There are legends in every single college football program. When you think about Baylor, most everybody these days thinks about Robert Griffin III or even maybe Mike Singletary, or maybe Thomas Everett, some of the great names, Walter Abercrombie. But there are some guys that set the table a long, long time ago. Don True and Lawrence Elkins were good about passing and catching and throwing and touchdowns and receiving yards and passing yards before it was cool. Back a long time ago, as I say to them, and they always go, man, that makes me sound old. Well, they are legends of Baylor football, and I had a chance to sit down with two legends. This is a lengthy interview to close out today's show. Don True and Lawrence Elkins, the legends, on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Well, this is what we love to do. Look back, reminisce, think about the incredible legends of Baylor athletics. And on occasion, we'll bring you, of course, Grant Taft was our debut. And today, we're joined by two great Baylor legends, college football Hall of Famers, Don True and Lawrence Elkins in studio at Sikkim 365. Man, it's great to have you, both of you. I want to start with Coach Bridgers. How far ahead of his time was he compared to where college football was at that time and really what it took to finally a lot of people understand you can throw the football like that?
You want me to answer first, Lawrence? I'll answer that. Yeah, that was one reason I came to Baylor. I grew up in Oklahoma City, Southeast High School, and our high school coach was kind of ahead of his time. We ran the spread, which became shotgun formation and all, besides split tee and all. And I threw in high school 234 passes, which is a lot for 10 games in high school back in 1958. And I was looking at a couple other schools, and then I heard John Bridges from Baltimore. Johnny Unitas was always my idol, and said they were going to throw the ball, put in the pro offense at Baylor. So I came, and we put the pro offense in. Probably in Lawrence can dwell on this more with Raymond Berry, since he was on the Colts where John Bridges was the offensive line coach when they won the world championship back in, I guess it's 58. And he came to our every spring training while I was in school, as well as Lawrence. I think he came the same way. And I probably learned more about the passing game from Raymond than any coach or anybody. And we were very wide open, and I think probably more than anything, we used an audible system, which that I was very comfortable with it, and I would say I probably audibled. Lawrence can say what he thinks, but I think 60% of the time, maybe more, we audible. We come to the line of scrimmage and we saw what they were giving us, and we had a play that we could run that would take advantage of what alignments there were in. And you said you started out with a question about how much ahead of his time. I think 50 years at least.
You were at Brownwood High School under the great Gordon Wood. Darrell Royal wanted you to come to Texas, and yet he thought Gordon Wood, that Baylor would be a better fit for you as well because of exactly what he was talking about?
Yes, he absolutely did. Darryl Rawls just showed up at my house the weekend before with half his coaching staff, and I was leaning toward Texas. And Gordon on that Monday called me in his office, and he said, "Son, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but here's the circumstances. You're not going to get much bigger, and you're not going to play defensive end. And if you're lucky, you'll catch 10 passes your whole career at Texas." He says there's a coach at Baylor that has a wide open offense that I think you're suited to. And don't you tell Royal I said this, because we're good friends, but you think about going to Baylor. And I changed my mind and went to Baylor.
Well, and of course, the rest is history, both in the College Football Hall of Fame and many other things. And we're going to get to certain moments, games, the good, the bad, and sometimes the disappointing. But you told me, Lawrence, about what Coach Don Truel would do, basically was almost a coach in the field, that in the huddle, he would change the plays, not just the audible at the line of scrimmage, but you told me that he knew the offense as well as anybody.
I mean, they'd send in somebody with a play, and he kind of looked at him, looked at the huddle, and he said, "Well, here's what we're going to call." I don't know if Coach Bridges knew that, he might get a little livid, but Don was that smart, though, and he might have been the only quarterback in the country at the time in college that was able to do his own thing, about play calling.
Don, what do you think then when you see quarterbacks today with these wristbands, at every level? There's a big thing, they flip it. I understand maybe the offenses, I don't know if they're more complex now than ever before, but what are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's the changing times. There's a lot of things that have changed from when Lawrence and I both played, which some of them I agree with and some of them I don't agree with. But once they put it in, everybody uses it. I think it's unfortunate a lot of college kids coming out that don't call their own plays. And I don't know if there is hardly any that calls their own plays that are in any of the big conferences nowadays. And it just like I say, I learned a lot from Raymond Berry, and of course from our coaches. Chuck Purvis was a quarterback coach, and it's just advantage. It's just like defensive backs and offensive linemen blocking, how much harder it was to block back when we played. An offensive lineman's hands couldn't leave his chest, and nowadays they can push him and do everything. It's a much easier game on people that play, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the receivers, because the defensive backs can't bump and run them as much as they used to could do. And it's just it's a different game. It really is.
I had somebody tell me the other day that the two of you made watching and following and being at Baylor football fun again.
I don't know. I was out there taking a beating. I don't know how much fun it was, especially when Don threw the ball about 15 feet over my head. But I'm kidding you. Anyway.
You brought that up to me.
Yeah.
Was it TCU? The TCU game, it was like 28-26, and you're on their 25-yard line.
Yeah,
and you guys had some amazing moments, but that was not well over your head. That was just, you remember that pass, Don?
Fingertips. Remember that last out, and we were inside the 20, and I missed it on fourth down.
Well, I don't think I threw it high. I don't think I ever.
No, I didn't say that. I said it barely grazed my fingertips. Now,
I do remember one ball that I did throw high, which I hate to remember. It's when we played Texas, and we may get into that later. But
well, we can get that out of the way.
It was our last drive. We were behind 7-0, and we had, if you can ever watch the film we went up and down the field. We never could get it in the end zone. We outgained them in yardage, et cetera, and then we were able to get a fumble late in the game and moved down to the 20-yard line, and we had like fourth down, and I had a drop back pass, and James Ingram was another receiver, and which was an advantage. Elkins was so good and made the defense so conscious of him they'd usually double team him or roll to his side. And it'd leave the other receivers one-on-one, and Ingram was one-on-one, and Ingram was a converted quarterback from Odessa that played under Fry, and then came to Baylor with Coach Fry. And he was in the end zone waving his arms, and he was wide open. And I jerked it back to throw it, and Staley Faulkner was a defensive lineman. They had two great defensive linemen, and Staley Faulkner on one side and Scott Appleton on the other. Mm-hmm. And Faulkner jumped up, and I kind of double clutched it and stepped up. And with my momentum stepping up and threw it, I threw it about 3 feet over Ingram's head. And Jim Hudson was a safety. And, of course, I became friends with him later. He played with the Jets and all. He's not with us anymore, unfortunately. But every time I'd see him, he'd say, I had him covered. He wouldn't. I'd have got it. He was 10 yards away from him. But that's the one pass I remember probably more than anything.
That was Duke Carlisle who intercepted the pass.
Yeah.
Lawrence, did you slip on that play, or were you open, or you just?
I was open for a while, but he closed the gap really quickly. I don't know. He's a heck of an athlete. People don't realize that, and he was on it in a hurry. And another thing that we heard later is Ken Hodge at the line of scrimmage, our tight end, and he was a good one. That was Duke's boy. It's his man. And Hodge slipped down when the ball was snapped to him, and so that gave Carlisle a chance to look for somebody else.
Yeah, they had worked all week. I talked to a couple of guys, Hudson one of them being, and the rule was if your man didn't come out for any reason, know where Elkins is and go to wherever that area is and help double team him with whoever is on him. And sure enough, that's what happened. Hodge got bumped and knocked down, slipped down, and Carlisle immediately turned and ran. But if you look at a picture, there's a picture. I never saw it. I saw the picture. I didn't see it in the dining hall at UT. That was on the wall forever in there of the picture where Lawrence's hands are like this. The ball is right up here, and Duke Carlisle is short of him, and his hands are in between the ball and Lawrence's hands. So it was a hell of a play.
They won the national championship that year.
First one.
Somebody asked me this. I put up a note on the Sikkim 365 in the premium section. If there's a question you could ask Lawrence or Don, what would it be? One of them was, had you scored, let's say you caught it, 7-6, you go for 2?
I would have probably, if we had a timeout and huddled, we didn't have that great a field goal kicker, okay? Extra point kicker, whatever you want to call him. I think we'd have gone for 2. Because earlier, before when Lawrence, I believe, was a freshman, I was a redshirt, or maybe he wasn't there yet. I got to make the trip to the Gator Bowl. The Bridgers team played in '60. We played Florida. And it was the end of the game, and we scored, and it was 7-6, and they went for 2. And Ronnie Goodwin played the position that Lawrence played. And Ronnie ran a 6-yard out, and Ronnie Stanley threw the ball and hit him in the hands, and it just went right through his hands. So I feel like that's probably what we'd have done, and that's probably what we would have ran. But, history is history.
Because of the fact Texas had recruited you and wanted you, did that make that even more difficult? You had a chance to beat them?
I don't know. I didn't even think about it that way. I remember we lined up for an introduction before the game, and Olin Underwood, the later judge down in Conroe, we'd become good friends, off season. And I looked over to him and I said, "How you doing, Olin?" He growled at me and spit on the ground. I said, "It's going to be a long day." And then one more thing, right fast. We're going up the steps out of the dressing room onto the field, and on every alternating in blood red steps, one said kill Trull, and the other said kill Elkins. And I thought, my goodness, what are we going to do?
Well, if that happened today with social media, can you imagine? Oh, my God, it'd be the lead story.
I'd file the lawsuit.
It'd been a hue and cry somewhere.
You mentioned Coach Bridgers, and then Coach Taft comes along later on and resurrects Baylor, the miracle on the Brazos. And then it was a long drought. Coach Briles gets them back-to-back Big 12 championships and competing at a national level. And then, of course, all hell broke loose. And then Matt Rule, 1-11 to a Sugar Bowl, almost won a Big 12 title. Now you have Dave Aranda, 2-7, and trying to turn things around. They've had a nice run with recruiting. What is it about Baylor that they're always resilient? Sometimes they can't help themselves, but what is it about the resiliency of Baylor football?
I don't know if you call it resiliency. I think it's just kind of like a cycle, you know, when you go through bad times and you got to get the right guy at the right time with the right players. You know, it's just one of those things. If you throw the ball, you got to have a good quarterback, you got to have receivers. If you run the ball, you got to have good linemen and you got to have good running backs. And it's just cyclical, you know, like that. And fortunately, Baylor's been able to flip it. Once they have a bad year, hopefully they'll be able to flip it again with Aranda. I've got Lawrence and I have season tickets together at the game, so we're hoping it turns out a little better than last year.
Lawrence, the national championship in men's basketball. Did you feel like you were as much a part of that as anything because of?
I did, really. I got all excited. I felt I belonged to Baylor. And they put a lot for everybody else on that table by winning it, especially the way they beat Gonzaga that last game. They treated him like a step kid.
Yeah, they did. They beat him up badly. It's like Coach Few after the game, a few days later, or weeks later, he's like, why were they so mad at us? Well, because everyone was talking about Gonzaga. That was a fun team. That team was tough as nails. They were some dogs. I mean, angry pit bulls, and they played like it.
Yeah, and you know, I saw when I saw Gonzaga play U of H. Of course, I live in Houston now. I knew Baylor was going to win. If I was a betting man and had a lot of money, I would have put it on Baylor all the time because it's just U of H couldn't handle them, and or U of H, Gonzaga couldn't handle U of H. They almost, you know, came close enough to beating them, and with their defense. And I knew Baylor's defense was twice as good as U of H's defense, and they had some great players and a great coach. Drew's done great, and it's just it's going to be interesting to see how they do next year because they're losing a bunch of guys.
Yeah, they are. A question for you. I know we've talked about Texas and a couple other. We'll do a little rapid fire here, then we'll go back to some other things. Most memorable game you've ever played in?
Blue Bonnet Bowl, 63, when we played LSU. I think LSU was ranked 8th or 9th in the nation. And we played down in Houston in Rice Stadium, and it was about, 25, 28 degrees, something like that.
It was cold.
And misting. And we had a great, they double-team Elkins, and Ingram ended up being the most valuable lineman because they were all doubled up on Lawrence and everything, and I think Ingram caught like 12 or 13 passes that game. So we were able to adjust.
You had 12 catches against Texas. You had 10 against A&M in a game as well. And was there a game that was your most memorable? Was it Blue Bonnet Bowl?
Yeah, it was one of them. I think one of them was the TCU game when I was a sophomore. You know, I scored 3 that day.
Ran a punt back, right?
Ball. Ran a punt back 92 yards, and I didn't know I could run that far.
You exhausted?
And TCU didn't know I could either.
They wouldn't have punted it to you if they knew that, right?
No, sideline True was one of them hollered, "Don't catch the ball, let it go." And then they was hollering, and I turned around and ran it all the way back because I caught the ball on the 8-yard line going away from the kicker.
Oh, so you were over your shoulder type?
Yeah. And turned around and went all the way back. But, Ingram got a good block on that one. Boy, he just wasted a couple of horns for all.
Probably also, not to interrupt, but I think for both of us, Texas Tech game our senior year was one that was –
yeah,
because we were behind like 9 points with maybe 5 minutes left or something like that, and we scored twice to beat them.
What was a pregame? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What was a pregame meal like? What did you get? Like what was it? Like now, God, it's
I think it was hot dogs. But
no, I thought it was horse meat. I know I shouldn't have said that.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
I don't know. We didn't have much of a budget in those days, but I think we had 30-year-old cow steaks maybe. No, I'm making it. I got to apologize to Baylor on that one.
No, that's okay. When you see now what they have up and down University Parks, when you see McLean Stadium, which is a mile from where we are, and you see Waco has blossomed, and now they want to build the brand new basketball facility, a new football operations, a new welcome center. What do you think?
Welcome to the big time. But I'd always thought that the Badgers had a lot of money. Now I know. But anyway,
I was told a long time ago that don't ever estimate how much money Baylor has when they need it.
That's what we were always thinking too.
Well, and one thing in Coach Bridger's favor was back when he was a coach, I think his second year or third year, he started the I can't even remember what it was called now, where people will contribute money for, not realistically, but technically on paper, for scholarships to certain individuals. You'd have like someone that contributed your scholarship, donated, and he started that fundraiser, and it evolved, and now with the Bear Foundation and all the fundraising areas of contribution people can contribute has just exploded.
You got heavily involved in helping with that, with Billy Williams, and got him, I think, heavily involved. His name's on a lot of buildings of philanthropy. And were you someone that was able to talk to Billy? I
talked to Billy a lot. Billy and I roomed together for 4 years, and of course we lost him here about a little over 2 years. Maybe it's been 3, but he was a great individual. I came from Oklahoma City, and I can remember our first meeting. Our freshman coach was Catfish Smith, and we were down at the bottom of Martin Hall, and he was introducing everybody. Catfish always had a name for everybody, and I was from Oklahoma, and he introduced me and said he's a bow and arrow kid from Oklahoma, and Billy and I got paired up as just potluck, I guess, for lack of a better term. Everybody else had somebody from their school or somebody they played against in high school, et cetera, as roommates. And we stuck together the whole time. And Billy got his knee torn up his first year and never really played and got active, but loved Baylor, loved golf. When he took his job, he became an executive with Orange Corning and really did well, and then left Orange Corning with 2 other executives from Orange Corning and started buying companies and flipping them. And one company they didn't flip, and Billy took it over up in Chicago and named Liquid Container, and did tremendous with it. And then they sold out, and we talked a little, but it was all Billy's idea. Billy wanted to give back, and he loved golf. He was a member of Muirfield up in Jack Nicklaus's course, and had a grandson that was a very good high school golfer that came down here, didn't play golf down here, and just graduated this past year, his grandson. But Billy became friends with McGraw, the coach, and wanted to give something back to Baylor, and did the soccer facility first, and then did I guess they call it now the Billy, out there when we were in school. That was the ROTC marching grounds, where they put the 2 greens and the golf training facility.
Another unbelievable part of
nice.
Baylor facilities. Nice. Freshman football, you mentioned freshman football. So that's kind of how you got into coaching, right? Didn't Arkansas, Joe Gibbs?
Yeah, I had my pro career, and I was at Houston, and then I was at Boston 2 years, and then back to Houston, and then I went to Canada my last 2 years in 1970 and 71. And then after I retired from Canada, 72, I got a phone call from some guy named Joe Gibbs, and at that time nobody really knew who Joe Gibbs was unless you played with him or something. And he was on Frank Broyles' staff at University of Arkansas, and Frank, I guess, I really never talked to anybody, never really met Frank or anything other than shaking hands with him after the game or whatever, and he wanted me to be the head freshman coach. This was the last year that freshmen were eligible. And so I went up there and became the freshman coach, and then the next year moved up to varsity and was a backfield coach. We had Joe Gibbs as an offensive line coach, and Jimmy Johnson, the defensive coordinator, and then Raymond Berry was on the staff as a receiver coach, and Merv Johnson, who was at Oklahoma forever, and Richard Williamson, who was from Alabama, that I think coached at Memphis and maybe somewhere else, and then Bill Lewis was secondary coach, and he coached at Wyoming after he left Arkansas. So we had we had a great staff. People say, well, how'd y'all do? Did y'all win the national championship? I said, well, our first year when we were all together, we went 6-4. And you got to have the players. It doesn't matter how good your coaching is. One thing Frank did, I guess, place emphasis on more than anything, prior to me coming to Arkansas in my first 2 years, Frank came into our coach's office one day and said, we're going into inner city. In Arkansas, they got a lot of rural kids, rural black guys out of Arkansas. And Frank wanted to balance it out a little more, but he wanted us to go in inner city, going after black kids also, which it strengthened the program. And 2 guys I recruited from Houston, R.C. Thielman and Greg Cook. One played at Atlanta, and Greg played with Green Bay. And I left Arkansas after my third year, and the next year they won the Southwest Conference. Arkansas did. So I was felt like I had a lot of Mike Kirkland from Pasadena was a quarterback, and I recruited him. But it's just Arkansas was kind of a touchy situation with what all happened over there with Faubus and all way back at at Central High School and everything.
Yeah.
And
Johnson won 2 Super Bowls. Gibbs won 3 Super Bowls, and I know that Raymond Berry was a part of some as a coach and a player, right?
Yeah, and Raymond was at New England.
Yeah.
Who's
the best coach you ever had?
Goodness, I don't
Anyone
know.
like
I'd
those
say,
names I just mentioned?
Well, I'd say Coach Bridgers, but you can't forget Gordon Wood because he showed up my senior year at Brownwood High. We were picked 5th in our district and won the first championship in the history of the town, in the state. He had we didn't have much talent, but he had us mean, in better shape than anybody. I thought that was the meanest guy I'd ever seen. I mean, you couldn't do anything to please him, especially if he was one of the team captains. He had
pushed you pretty hard?
Pushed pretty hard, dressed you down. You thought you did a good job, but evidently you didn't.
Won a state championship.
Sure did. First one ever.
And he ended up winning a bunch of them in the end. So in a matter of just a football season, he flipped everything at Brownwood.
Oh, he did. Made everybody proud of the town, and all of a sudden here comes 3M and Superior Cables and Kohler, and everything just took off from there. And then he retired in the early 80s. They hadn't won one since.
No, they've had some pretty good runs.
And they said it's the players, but I don't know.
Do you remember hosting Walter Abercrombie at your house one night?
Yes, I did.
What are you laughing for?
We were having a little golf tournament out there trying to raise money, and I convinced Walter to come out to the lake, and he played golf that day, and he needed to take a shower. I had forgotten to turn the hot water on. And he never complained. And that's probably the coldest water on earth, out of the well.
Yeah, he wanted me to bring that up, by the way. He said, hey, ask him about that time I spent the night and I froze to death taking a shower.
I didn't know they had hot water out in Brownwood.
Well,
where'd y'all get that?
It just came in, but anyway. And he didn't complain, didn't say a word, but he's tough. I'd have been screaming.
Yeah, that's one of those that sometimes just randomly, wherever you're taking the shower, and when it doesn't get warm, you just have to have almost courage to get underneath of that, and it's about a 30-second shower.
But old Walter proved he was tough that evening.
College Football Hall of Fame, I mentioned it off the top. You were inducted in '93.
Yeah, I think so.
Don, 2013.
Correct.
You were in Saudi Arabia. That's another part of your life that we'll get into in the Middle East. And in your induction speech, you said something about, I would never have missed this because this isn't for 1 year or for 4 years. This is forever. What did that mean to you?
Well, I spent a lot of time in that desert by myself. And I don't know, I just thought how great it was to get selected to that thing. out of all the people that played football in America since its outset, or onset, and then to have Don and me in that thing, that was something.
Did it make it complete when he finally was introduced?
Oh yeah, I was pushing for him. I'd remember I'd call old Archie, and I'd go to those things, and that's why I went in 2000 trying to pump you up to get in there. You know, talking to Switzer and the old boy from Tennessee, Johnny Majors.
Johnny Majors, yeah.
And I was tickled when they finally selected him.
It was the last year you were eligible?
Yeah, you're only eligible 50 years from the date you play your senior year. So 63 was my senior year, so I've had a chance to get in 50 years from then, which 2013 was the last year of my eligibility.
I'm a voter on that, and it's a list every year. You sit there and go, my gosh, I can only pick 8 or 12 or whatever, and then
It's
there's
tough.
a division.
Yeah.
What? Did you ever give up that you would get in?
I didn't give up, and speaking of my roommate a while ago, Billy, I think probably Billy had a lot to do with it. He got involved with them also, pushing them and sending them letters, and which I'm sure, I know it helped.
What did you do when you got the call?
I was on my patio outside, and it was Archie. Archie called. I think Archie calls everybody at the time. I don't know who was chairman when you were.
He wasn't there yet.
He wasn't there yet, but he was chairman of the National Football Foundation. I was very shocked, but very appreciative, and at last.
There's Montana and Rice. There is Clayton, Duper, and Marino, and there's, passing combinations. RG3, Kendall Wright, among many others that have been the more modern-day quarterbacks and receivers, the great receivers that Baylor's had as well. And there's obviously Trull and Elkins.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. You wonder how good were we compared to everybody else. And a different time, I told Don if it was today, I wouldn't even make the team.
No, that's not right.
Well, that's how I felt. But
instead of catching 70 one year, you'd probably catch 140.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
Because we didn't throw ever down.
No.
We had a running game. We had to have a running game to have a little balance and everything. But I think when I got inducted to the Texas Hall of Fame, Art was in the audience, Bryles, and I looked at him and I said, I wish I'd have played for you also. I love Coach Bridgers, but having a chance in that offense as a quarterback and as a receiver, of course, there's so many receivers, you spread it around a lot more. But we spread it around pretty good. Lawrence caught 70 his senior year. And Ingram, I think, caught 58, and we had 2 tight ends. One caught 30 and one caught 20. So we spread it around pretty good. Didn't throw a lot to the halfbacks.
Both of you you played in the National Football League or the AFL or the NFL. You mentioned the WFL, the Canadian Football League. You've been all around. And then you even mentioned a couple other leagues you were a part of as well. You guys had a chance to play and had some sporadic success. You broke your collarbone?
Well, that was one of the injuries. First thing was Don led me in a goalpost, and I got wrapped around it.
Wait a second. Before I take credit for leading him to the goalpost, we played an exhibition game against the Jets. Their rookie year with Namath was a rookie. So they had it back then, exhibition games, they would put them in places where players on each team may have had a college connection or something from that area. So we played in Arlington, Virginia. Namath was a rookie quarterback, and we played at a high school stadium, and the goalposts were on the goal line. Two standers, not just one, 2. And so we were on about the 10-yard line and threw kind of what we threw at Baylor, like a quick post. Lawrence caught it and looked up, and that standard was right there, and he planted, and I think the plant tore his leg up more than the hit.
Can you believe that it took forever for that. It's like, well, whose idea was it? Let's stick these 2 things in the field of play.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So you had the knee injury or the leg injury and then also a collarbone. Do you ever feel like, what if?
Well, I have thought about that more than once, and I was supposed to be at the college all-star game that night. the Houston Oilers told them I was hurt, but they put me in the game and I got hurt. They got fined $2,500 for playing me illegally in a game where I never was the same, really.
Who told me about a road trip when you played, or someone's mentioned that you were someone with the Oilers, and you had a road trip, and you guys had to like drive to the road trip. Mike Holloway was either the coach or the general manager. You're at a team hotel, and they said, "Don't put the beds down, so we can get just half price. They won't charge us full price for the room."
This is when I was in Boston. Mike Holloway.
Oh, it's the Patriots.
When I was
Okay,
with the Patriots.
all right.
And I'd got traded after the fourth game of 1967 from the Oilers, and I was kind of ready to get out of the Oilers because there was a bunch of coaching situations with Bud Adams and the coaching changes and all, and it was very unstable. And so I said, "Oh, great, man, I'm going to Boston, and they've got Jim Nantz, man, it'll take the heat off the passer and all." And so we're getting ready to go play an exhibition game against the Jets, and it's I can't even remember where it was, but we took a train. It was close, and we took a train, and on the Friday after practice, or right before practice, the coach was meeting with us all saying, "We're going." And Holloway never looked at the guys when he talked to them. He'd look up at the ceiling, "Guys," and he had that New England accent, "Guys, we're going up to play the Jets over in wherever it was," and he says, "I want you to do me one favor." And of course, Boston had some good years with Jim Nantz, Babe Parilli, and Gino Cappelletti. They were the three guys kind of that were the leaders of that team. And he says, "I want y'all to do me a favor. Since it's exhibition game, it's so close. We're going over on the train on Saturday." And the game was Saturday night. We weren't spending the night. And he said, "We're going over Saturday. And I want y'all to just get off your feet, watch a college game and everything, but I want you to do me a favor." He says, "Don't turn the covers back because we get a better rate if we don't mess the bed up." I hope I won't get X-rated here, but Cappelletti said, Coach, when we go into the restroom," he said, "they've got that deal, that piece of paper over the toilet seat. Should we tear it or leave it in place?" I swear. And you know, people wouldn't believe that today. I mean, that's the way, because Holloway later came to the Oilers as general manager and was signing $1 million contracts to
left
guys,
and right.
you know.
You had a chance to play at two different places. You were drafted, right? But in the AFL and NFL?
Yeah.
You picked the Oilers. What did Bud Adams promise you?
Oh, one of those same things they promised Appleton, a Phillips 66 service station that I'd get 20 years down the road.
A gas station, like
Gas
an
station.
old-fashioned full service like we never see anymore.
Right.
A gas station.
That was it.
20 years later, you were going to get that.
Yeah, and 20 years later, I had a lot of people had their hands out to get part of that station too. But that's another.
So
story.
your bonus baby ended up in the hands of somebody else, then, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Donnie Anderson said, "Elkins, you want me to give you part of my bonus?" Because I was #1 draft choice for Lombardi at Green Bay. Donnie was the #1 future choice since he flunked out of school his freshman year at Texas Tech. So when they didn't sign me, they signed him the next year for $942,000. Wow. About 5 times what I signed for the year before, but which is more money than I ever seen in my life anyway.
Wait a minute. You had a chance to play for Vince Lombardi and the Green Bay Packers?
3 world championships. Yep. And I saw him.
By the way, that would have trumped Gordon Wood being mean, because you know how tough Lombardi was. Players loved him. They hated him. They loved him, though. But he won.
I'd have probably snuck out in the middle of the night and headed back to Brownwood, maybe. But I don't know. I met him. Tom Fears drove me to a little Catholic chapel at the side of Love Field early on Sunday morning after we'd finished playing Rice here the afternoon before. And I see this little old guy with this little fedora and that gap teeth, and I didn't know who he was. I really didn't. And me, I hadn't heard much of Lombardi. And he looked at me with old toothy grin. He said, "Son, I've never drafted a pass catcher #1, but to me, you're the best third down receiver in America in college and all I want you to do is catch 3rd and long from Bart Starr. And I guess I should have taken that to heart.
Wow. So instead of you, it was Boyd Dowler, Carroll Dale,
Yep.
Max McGee.
But I might have gotten splinters on a Green Bay bench. I don't know.
Oh, I think they maybe got splinters.
I don't know, but they, and all those people were 6'4", 6'5", and I'm 6'1". So,
what kind of pass did he throw? Was it an easy catch pass? Is it like tight spiral kind of?
Unless he threw it in the bleachers. No, I was kidding you.
He says that about you a lot.
I mean, wait till I talk about him in a minute.
Anyway, he learned the technique of, I don't know, it's like it. Yeah, y'all had that deal about throwing against the gym wall with that mat there, and if you right-handed and it fell to the right, then you had the nose up properly, or was it reversed?
Backwards.
Backwards. Okay.
Backwards.
Well, I wasn't a quarterback
right.
either.
As long as you catch him, you don't know how they bounce. Okay.
But he I guess something about throwing his wrist out.
Oh yeah.
Well,
and bringing the nose up, and if that nose is up, you're gonna have a lot easier time catching it. And he never threw a hard pass. He really didn't.
So very catchable.
Very catchable.
You can see sometimes on games, some quarterbacks, when you release the ball, your 2 last fingers is like that. People don't realize when you throw a football, it's like that. And some guys throw it like this.
Baseball.
Like a baseball, yeah. and it nose down, and you can see a guy running it, especially short passes, in the flat route or a crossover route, and it hits them right in the hands, and they don't catch it, but it's because it's coming in there with the nose down, which means they're only getting the bottom, or as it turns out, the top half of the ball into their hands, and it slips through. And Coach Purvis was my quarterback coach and got with me, and I spent hours and hours over in Rena Mars McLean Gymnasium in the summertime, 5 days a week, throwing balls into the mat and into the backboard. I do it at different levels. Coach Purvis was writing his master's on the art of throwing the forward pass, or his doctor's, I guess it was, and had it Pierce. I don't know if you remember the guy. What was Pierce's first name, or the guy that filmed our games?
Yeah.
I can't remember. His name was Pierce.
I'll say Franklin Pierce.
But he was always over there, and they got shots from me behind, and we had tape over the nose of the ball four times, and you could see it, whether it was up or down, and then it, like Lawrence said, if it came straight back or went to the left. The majority of the time it comes straight back. I mean, I could get 10 feet from the mat under a basketball goal and throw it and catch it a bunch, more times than not.
Lombardi mentioned his 3rd down and his ability, clutch passes. You've thrown, Ingram had 58 catches and Lawrence had 70, and then you threw to a lot of others throughout your career. What was it like to have him as your?
Well, it was great. Lawrence probably his biggest attributes were, number one, he had a great pair of hands. He's a big bone individual and has very strong hands. I can't even tell you about his brothers. They had strong hands. About the one that can, what is it, a nickel or a penny?
No, quarter.
A quarter.
Quarter
he can rip a quarter in two.
Your brother could?
His brother.
No, my older brother
could rip a quarter in
two like this, and you can't even take metal shears and cut it in two.
No. You're going to ruin the shears.
He'll just do that and then rip it. And I told him, "Why did you tell him about it? We could have made $1 million in Vegas on you."
Like some show.
He was the strongest guy I've ever seen. Wasn't that big? It just had these big old gnarled hands. And
okay, let me finish telling about your abilities. And he was a great athlete in high school. Of course, I didn't know anybody from Texas other than I played in the old Oil Bowl.
Oil Bowl, yeah.
With Ronnie Goodwin was on the other team. Trying to think, 2 other people, maybe Bert Tate and one other one. Unfortunately, we've lost them too. It's just I've been going to so many funerals here in the last 2 years. It's terrible. But anyway, Lawrence, besides being a great athlete and having great hands, was his break out of a route, whether you're running a sideline route, whether you're running a post route, or whether you're running a comeback route. Lawrence, acceleration off the break was the best I've ever seen. Guys in the pros I played with Charlie Hennigan with the Oilers, who was all pro with AFL. But Lawrence had the ability to come off a break, and I think it was probably from his track He was a great quarter miler in high school. Great quarter mile. That's one of the toughest races there is in track. And he had that ability, and then he could catch the ball and could take a lot of punishment because I didn't throw him perfect all the time. And sometimes he had to go up high or stop and catch it from behind and all. But and let me add one other thing, which going into the pros, the biggest thing in the pros, you got to be in the right place at the right time with the right coaches. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how good you are. And I'm saying this not on my behalf, but on his behalf.
Both of them.
Lawrence, coaches don't know how to coach people. That was one ability that Coach Bridgers had. You can't coach every player exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And that's a coaching trait I learned from Coach Bridgers, which I hope I used at Arkansas with players, because there's some guys that you've got to pamper a little bit and agree with them a little bit instead of holler at them and cuss them out. And there's some you got to holler out and cuss them out, and they play that much better. But Lawrence was the kind of guy, Bridgers knew how to handle Lawrence. And Lawrence, on like Monday or Tuesday after we'd played on Saturday, we'd be at practice and say, "Where's Lawrence, man?" And Coach Bridgers said, "Oh, well, he was hurting a little bit. He was inside." Where Lawrence got out of more Monday and Tuesday practices than anybody.
Did you really?
And on Tuesday, I was down at the Union Building at Hot Chocolate Hour looking at all the AOs and the Athenians.
And they're out there practicing.
And we're out there practicing. And Coach Bridgers,
I didn't do
he knew how to get into Coach Bridgers' soft spot.
Star treatment. It's a star treatment, right?
And he had come out, he had missed practice up to Thursday or Friday, when it's short practices, and he'd come out on the weekend and catch 15 passes,
Both of you, post-football, have been everywhere. I mean, you were in Africa, you were in Europe, you were in Saudi Arabia forever. Yeah. The Minister of Water. You worked for the Ministry of Water?
I worked for them, yeah.
You were the Minister of Water. And you worked for the Ministry of Water. You told me last night when we talked on the phone about all of the different places you've been, whether it's been in the banking business, the renovation business, the whatever. I mean, you guys, you've been around.
It's not our first rodeo, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so how did you get involved in Saudi Arabia? And it was an oil company, correct?
No, it was a Saudi Arabian Ministry of Water and Power. I applied for the job. I had a big full-page ad in the Houston Chronicle, and I was a little short on cash at that time, I think, and I had to do something. One of the midlife crisis deals. I had to have a job. And here's all this stuff, all this list of jobs in Saudi Arabia with something called Saline Water Conversion Corporation. I applied for the job and baffled them so much with stuff. They had a Saudi and an Englishman interviewed me. And I pulled things on them, and I remembered my organic chemistry a little bit, and I baffled them so much. Out of 232 applicants, they hired me.
Can you spell organic?
I can spell N.
Oh my God! Dickie Magel helped you get a job in the Brown and Root? Is that right?
Brown and Root, yes, sir.
He's kind of a famous college football name, huh? Dickie Magel.
He was.
Yeah.
And
Dickie had a motel right by Rice on South Main, right by the medical center, called the Tidelands Inn, and had a club upstairs where they had name entertainment. I mean, like, I can't even think of it. They're older people. People wouldn't know who they are now. They weren't rappers, that's for sure. But he was a great player at Rice. He was the one that had the famous getting tackle off the bench by Tommy. Was it Lewis?
Alabama.
From Alabama in the Cotton Bowl. Yeah. But we became friends with Dickie because he'd always kind of have a lunch every Monday after games, and a bunch of old cronies that would go to the games. And fortunately, Elkins and I sometimes would get to go over and all and discuss what happened the last week at the game and all. And we became friends, and Lawrence became friends with him, and it was very interesting.
So you had that entertainment club, whatever, the Dickie Magel at his hotel. Johnny Carson Tonight Show.
Yeah.
Robert Duvall with movies, and Sammy Baugh. I mean, did you ever think he got a little bit highfalutin? Don, he was
he never got highfalutin. I don't think that's possible.
What was the name of the movie? Tender Mercies, and then there was Lonesome Dove, and he brought you to the Academy Awards?
Yeah.
Wow.
Boy, I thought I was in tall cotton then.
I bet.
Riding in Duval's limousine to the Academy Awards with Wilford Brimley, who was a great old actor.
Oh, yeah.
I spent 2 years in a TV series being his stunt double, and I was 8 inches taller than him. Figure that one out. But anyway.
The Johnny Carson show was in 64. You were on the cover of, was it Sports Illustrated? Okay, and then it was an article about Baylor with you and Lawrence and Coach Bridgers. And then you guys seriously think about this. And then you're fourth in the voting for the Heisman Trophy one year.
Correct.
Look magazine, I think. You guys.
Look All-American. We both
Look All-American. I mean, this.
Yeah, we were fortunate.
Very fortunate.
So was Baylor.
Well,
Baylor gave us an education, and we didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah,
right?
for him, of course, he was a Blake Scholar in math and was a GTE Academic All-American, 3 times?
Yeah.
And Staubach wasn't. I didn't. I get in trouble for that one.
No.
Hey, Staubach wins the Heisman in 63 because all the voting's east of the Mississippi River.
All of the
realize that?
No, yeah, there's a lot.
Heisman
Yeah.
votes.
What was that? Was there actually a ceremony?
No
What was that
ceremony.
like? Because I know
It was
it's changed. I've seen it change in my lifetime.
Yeah, no ceremony back then.
They just
They just announced it. Didn't have it on TV or anything.
Can you believe how? And I'm kind of torn on this. Everything now is like, golly, you have an 2-hour pregame, and you have this music and bands, and it's just, I guess, what maybe people want. It's gotten to the point now where they drag it out for hours, and it's because they can make money off of it, you know. And now it's a bit. When RG3 won it, and you were again so close in '63, what did that mean to you as a quarterback?
Well,
as
I thought it was great, you know, and I became friends with RG while he was here and everything. And I see now, what was it I just saw in the paper where he's getting interviewed already for doing
analyst work,
doing analyst work after the season. And he's a good guy, smart guy, talented athlete, of course, and as we all know, and very humble guy too. And like I say, I think the worst injustice for him was when he was with the Redskins and he was injured, and the coach Shanahan, you know the father-son, and leaving him in there or putting him in there, you know, which hurt him bad.
Yeah, there was a lot of that organization's a mess.
And that's like what I said earlier about being in the right place, the right time, the right coaching staff.
Because his rookie year, boy,
it's all got to click.
He was unbelievable.
Yes, he was.
And they allowed him to be him as well. You were in Saudi Arabia how long?
14 years and 2 months. Left in the middle of the night.
Why?
Well, people
Tell them
decided,
about your friends.
What?
Tell them about your friends, the Bedouins.
Oh, the Bedouins got me out of town. They thought I looked like a CIA person, and I told them I couldn't spell intelligence. But
or CIA.
They became very unhappy with me overnight, and that was probably due to Bush's shock and awe when he bombed the Iraqis and didn't faze them any. And I told them, they didn't hear me, you're bombing the wrong people. Hey, boy, I was in trouble. Those people turned on me.
Wow.
They used to be my friends, and overnight they were not.
And you had to leave in the middle of the night? Were you scared for your life?
Not exactly, but I embellished it a little bit. But I had an old Bedouin that I befriended for years, and his name was Thabit Soweto Al-Luhibi, which is a tribal name out in those sand hills. And he come by my office one morning, and he's always got this old toothy grin. Mr. Lawrence. I said, yeah, Mr. Thabit, how you doing? He said, have you ever considered when you might want to leave Saudi Arabia? And I said, I don't know, Mr. Thabit. What do you think? He said, well, how about Omsk? answers yesterday in Arabic, and boy, I knew I was in trouble then.
So you suggested the wrong country was getting hammered.
Yeah, but it didn't have anything to do with Saudi Arabia. I was wondering why they were bombing the Iraqis when they didn't have any weapons of mass destruction. They'd been shoved into Syria all these years. They didn't have.
I was going to ask you about Saudi Arabia. I was going to ask you that. I was like, when you were there, did you see? Because you hear, and of course, there's so many different things in politics or whatever. I mean, did you see tension all the time, or I mean, was it?
No, it was just when we loaded them up, during the Gulf War.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't used to that. They didn't like it. You had our Marine women guards in shorts and no abayas, no whatever it is they have on their head, and it just freaked them out. And it freaked bin Laden out, too. He was kind of neutral. He didn't like us, but that really put him over the edge when he saw all them women running around with not many clothes on. And that's just between me and you and the wall.
And Sikkim 365.
I was going to say.
Yes, I've done that, yeah.
Dutch Schrader.
Yes, sir.
What did he mean to you, and what do you think you meant to him?
Well, we didn't mean much to each other when I showed up at Baylor. I'd do things that make him so mad. And since Bridgers was my boss, he couldn't do much about it. And Miss Becky's daughter was wondering who he was mouthing off about at the supper table every night. She found out about 50 years later it was me. He was complaining about that dadgum Elkins at the supper table. You know what he did in my PE class? Because I took an elective with him, in different PE things. And one time, a fast story here, it had rained at Minglewood Bowl used to be down on the right side of, or back of Martin Hall.
Brooks and Martin, yeah.
Yeah. And it rained one night, and Waco Creek was running. And so it was hitting principals the next day, and they had these big old, 16-inch, the old slow pitch softballs. Had 6 brand new ones. So he said, Elkins, get up there and bat. I got up there, he threw me 6 pitches. I hit 6 of those big balls over everything into Waco Creek, and it floated to the Brazos.
Brand new balls gone.
And he was so mad at me because there went all his softballs and class, couldn't do anything. Oh, he was seething. Just things like that.
So what happened when you started dating his daughter?
Oh, Lord. Nothing much, because I'd been coming by and taking him to different places. We got to be good friends. I was his chauffeur, his driver. He bragged about that. Everybody knew. Guess who my driver is?
Lawrence Elkins.
We went to Houston and Dallas and everywhere, and we kept him, the last couple of years of his life, and it was tough.
John McClain told me a story. Of course, you guys know both John, Waco, Trib, and then, of course, now the Chronicle, Hall of Fame writer. He said that when he was a Little League baseball player, you used to go to some of the Little League practices and show kids, how to play the game, or even try to teach them how to throw a curveball.
Yeah, I remember that.
You spent time doing, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. And I remember I gave him my chin strap after a Baylor game, and Truel wouldn't give his. But I made that up.
I was going to say.
Anyway.
Don Truel played in the NFL, played with, did you actually win the AFL, right? Too? AFL, I'm sorry. The WFL with the Shreveport Steamer.
Before that, it first was the Houston Texans, not like the current one.
Right.
A guy named Steve Arnold from California is the guy that put the cash in and everything. And then we played almost a season in the Astrodome, and he ran out of money. And then the franchise was sold to Shreveport. And then we went to Shreveport Steamer. And
what about the game in which you guys were supposed to play and you didn't have your uniforms?
We went over to Shreveport, and most of us stayed in the Holiday Inn because it was the end of one season. I think we had 5 or 6 games left. And Garland Boyette, who was a linebacker with the Cardinals and came with the Oilers, and he also went to Shreveport. I went to WFL with Houston, and then we went to Shreveport. And he was kind of the defensive captain, and I guess I was the offensive captain because I was a lot older than most of the guys there and everything. And I got a call on a Wednesday from a dry cleaners, and it didn't know me from a hole in the ground, but knew I was a quarterback, and said, this is Bill Brown, and I'm with so-and-so cleaners, and we clean y'all's uniforms, and we haven't been paid in 3 weeks for the last 3 games. And y'all are playing Friday night or Saturday night. I can't even remember what night it was. And we can't let the uniforms go till we get everything back paid current, or y'all aren't going to play. And so Garland and I talked, and we met with the team. And so I called an attorney, and we attached the gate receipts in Shreveport where nothing would get paid until the dry cleaners was paid with the gate receipts. And then it was whatever else it went to was after that. It was an experience. Then, after that game, we always meet on Monday, come out on Monday, and, it wasn't as many guys there. And I saw a guy putting a helmet in a bag and a guy putting a jersey in another bag, and didn't see any coaches or anything at all. And so I picked up a couple of footballs and put them in a bag, and that was the last.
That was it.
That was it. Everybody was getting what they could get.
These leagues, the AFL was good enough, strong enough, had enough star power, Al Davis, among others as owners, to eventually force the NFL into a merger. But the other ones, they just come and go. The WFL, the USFL made a run with the great superstars like Steve Young and Herschel Walker and all the others, and they eventually ran themselves into the ground. And the XFL never, and the Spring League.
Did you ever get paid all your money?
I'm still waiting on it.
That's what I thought. Still waiting on salary from those days.
From the WFL?
WFL, yeah.
You'll never get it, man.
No, I don't think I will.
Never going to get it. Joe Gibbs, I went back to him for a second. I told you how much I think he's just, my God.
Great guy.
Now in NASCAR, he's won numerous NASCAR championships. He's just quiet, kind of looks like a cerebral, quiet guy, the glasses and all that. And I remember when he took over what was then the Washington Redskins, now the Washington football team, they got off to a rugged, kind of a tough start, and they weren't, Cook wasn't so sure, but then the rest is history. One of the greatest winning percentages, 3 Super Bowls. You saw him and his competitive edge, how?
It was an interesting story. When I got a phone call from him, and like I said, I didn't know who he was. He told me, I'm on Coach Burrell's staff here at University of Arkansas, and Coach Burrell's would like you to come up here and visit with him about maybe coaching the freshman team. And so I went up there and visited, and I was very impressed with the whole situation, and so I ended up going to Arkansas to be the head freshman coach. And my first 2 or 3 weeks, of course, my wife and family were still in Houston, and I lived in the dormitory in a single room. And of course, as I'd mentioned earlier, the staff was Raymond Berry and Jimmy Johnson, et cetera. And so everybody's trying to be nice to me, asking me to come to their house for dinner because I was up there by myself and all. And so you was talking about Joe being quiet and everything. He kind of had a devious laugh. I don't know if you've ever heard him laugh, and I was kind of like, like that. And so he said, hey, you don't play racquetball by any chance, do you? And I happened to play racquetball when I was in Houston. I said, yeah, I play racquetball. He said, well, after practice or before practice, why don't we meet over at the racquetball courts and we'll play? I said, okay. And so, Joe was kind of pudgy and was a lineman, and
yeah.
And I was a quarterback, and thought, I'll go give him a game, And he wore me out on the racquetball court, and he didn't mind doing it. I mean, he beat me like 21-4, and next game he didn't take no quarters. He beat me about the same again, I mean, he was a heck of a player. And the other thing that was unusual about him, which shows now in his later years, he had a motorcycle. And he used to race motorcycles.
So a little edge, he had a little.
And that's I'm sure, and then he got into the
Mm-hmm.
NASCAR and everything, and been very successful at it.
Okay, I mentioned Joe Gibbs to come. It made me think of another question. Dave Aranda is you could see him. He's not a scream yeller. We mentioned it. Everyone has different personalities. And whenever we've mentioned Dave Aranda, and of course when you're 2-7, people go, he doesn't care enough, or it doesn't mean anything just because Tony Dungy, Lovie Smith, there's others, Tom Landry, rarely ever exploded on the sideline, maybe once or twice. And then you have the ones who are rugged and rough, whether it's Lombardi or Knoll or whoever, Parcells. Dave Aranda has that quiet demeanor, and obviously last year was a nightmare because of COVID. Your thoughts of Dave Aranda and year two, because they're in this little stretch here where now people can actually come to Baylor. Prospects can get on campus. They can have official or unofficial visit, and they're kind of in a nice little run here with recruiting.
Yeah, as you mentioned, last year was kind of a let's just throw it out and start over, so to speak, year. And I've always said, and I'm not saying it in this case, I'm just in generalities, when a defensive coordinator takes a head job, and there's been some very successful ones, like Joe Gibbs. He was a defense coordinator in college, and, of course, Aranda was very successful at LSU and all. He's only as good as his offensive coordinator, when he gets a head job. And that's my firm belief, because defense you don't have to worry about, okay? And I'm not saying this derogatory or anything. Coach Aranda may know a lot about offense, but you're only as good as your offensive staff and your offensive assistants. So hopefully, and I thought last year, and I can't even remember who the offensive coordinator was.
Larry Fedora.
Had a pretty good track record. I thought I didn't know him that much about him and all, and I thought that we were going to be good. Okay, and for whatever reason, we weren't offensively, whether it be COVID, didn't have the players, et cetera, et cetera. Now he's got his new staff, or not new staff, but new staff on the offensive side, and let's hope it pans out, because I feel like they got the players. I think the quarterback situation, of course, on any team is the key to your offense, and
they got a nice little young, talented, but just inexperienced kind of a raw group that they'll try to find out what
bring
they can
along
do
and see who should be in there.
You guys have season tickets at, I don't know how many games you were able to go to because there weren't many, but Lawrence, when you watch an offense struggle, and first, second, third down, and 3rd and 5 seemed like it was, you might as well punt. And I'm not trying to be flippant. How hard was it to watch that as a guy that was a part of a prolific offense, or just someone who loves Baylor?
I just quit saying catch the dadgum football. I gave up on that too. But anyway, I don't know much about the game like Don does. He watches all the chess on there, and I just watch where the ball goes. That's me as a fan. I hear all these people saying they should have been in this formation, that technique, and I wonder who are they? When Truly knows what he's talking about. But he said, "Did you see that?" And I said, "See what?" I was looking at the ball.
Well, most fans watch where the ball is, the center, the snap, and that's it.
And what we watch more than anything up there is how the secondary covers receivers.
Yeah.
And there would be times in any game where people are overplayed or underplayed, and the defense is inside, and you should be throwing outside, and the team tries to throw it inside, or vice versa. If a guy's playing outside shoulder, it's a heck of a lot easier to throw it inside. And where the safeties are, that's one thing. Back when Rule was here, and he did a great job, but his defense sometimes, and they changed it up in the last couple of years, where the two safeties were turning around and start backing up before the ball's ever snapped. Like a cover, I don't know what they call it. We'd call it cover 3 or cover 5 when I was playing. And you just can't do that. It tips your hand. And if you're playing against a team that can adjust on the fly, so to speak, it's tough to defend them.
Yeah, that last year, though, man, my God, they were unbelievable. And that last year's defense, you could see it. As you mentioned, the defense still, a couple of times they got grilled pretty good. We brought up the 1963 season in that game with Texas, and obviously the end of the game was wow. It was so close, and yet it didn't end well. How much did he take that loss on his own shoulders?
I thought he blamed it on me. No,
Is this when the applause sign's supposed to get?
Yes, that was. No, I felt badly. Of course, I felt pretty hurt too. Don was having his mouth and lips sewed up at halftime, where one of their players hit him with an elbow after the whistle blew, and he was on top of a pile.
Tommy Ford.
Yep. Tommy Ford, and I
got the name and license number.
Yeah. And
that's now on record.
And I had 2% xylocaine stuck in both ankles because they were hurting so bad I couldn't run. So I had assisted running in the second half, and you don't broadcast that back in those days, but when it wore off, I was in trouble.
Well, we actually had two plays. I talked about the one at the end of the game,
right.
Elkins, where he down and out, and here come Carlisle. But it was the first or second series. We would always, one thing about Coach Bridgers, he wasn't afraid to take chances. And we would always put a play in or two for a particular team every week. We'd do it, an unusual play. Against LSU, we did what called the alumni pass. Bridgers was funny. He'd say, "We're going to call this an alumni pass. This is just for the alumni." And it was a double reverse pitch back, and we had a guy slow play and then go deep. But then Lawrence would pitch it back to me, and then he would continue on down the sidelines. Well, we had that for LSU, and we did it, and the wide receiver was covered, but they forgot about Lawrence going around the left. And that was the first time I ever threw it to Lawrence after he had pitched me the ball going, you remember that, going to the left.
I slid under Charlie Mack, knocked his feet out from
on the bench over there.
Charlie McClendon.
Oh, yeah.
But then in the Texas game, I think it was the first series, maybe the second series, right in front of their bench. It was our bench on the right side. And it was kind of a wet day, and all, but
windy, cold.
We ran Lawrence on like out and up, and he's wide open. And I didn't want to overthrow him, but I'd like to hit him in stride, and end up hanging up there and all, and he caught it, and they kind of got him, from behind. He gained, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 yards. But if I'd had it out there, he would have scored because they weren't going to catch him. But anyway, there's plays like that you remember and stick in your mind.
How often do you guys talk?
Not very.
Yeah. But it's like you are connected forever.
Yeah, we are. But compared to him, I have a limited vocabulary, so it's hard to talk to him.
We talk, I don't know, maybe every 2 or 3
weeks. But you
weeks.
see each other at functions and some things like that. And then last year, of course, was hard. He said he was a prankster and that you were the serious one.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you remember anything he may have done as a prankster or?
When we were rookies, I think, wasn't it you pulled the deal on Charlie Frazier? When we were at Kerrville?
No, I didn't.
Snake, did you do the snake deal?
I did the snake deal, but that was on, I thought it was you and Bethard.
No.
Well, who put that rattlesnake between whose beds that night?
It wasn't ours. That's at a training camp. He got a snake.
Well, I got a lot of mileage out of that one. Wally Lim, our coach, said, if I ever catch who put that rattlesnake in the quarterback's room, they'll never play another down in the NFL. I almost didn't. And
was
why did it? I don't
what
know.
Did you? Was it live?
It was when I opened the trunk. I made me a snake catcher, and I'd looked all training camp.
You put a rattlesnake in the trunk of your car,
and then it got loose. And when I lifted the trunk up, we were at Crider's open air dance land. Willie Nelson's playing that night. I said, everybody said, come here, I want to show you something. And I didn't realize that snake had gotten loose from that noose. I lifted that up, and it like that, and it took 2 days to round the Oilers up. Boy, they were jumping fences, and I wasn't through that snake. Of course, I did $500 worth of damage to the trunk of my car trying to kill that snake with a tire tooth. with him striking at me. That's how nutty I was.
Yeah, that I think that would have
Finally
ended
gets
my
him
friendship
down.
with you right there.
And then I rolled him up between those beds, and he was still
And it was
kinda
dead at that
writhing.
time, right? Or was it?
It was still writhing.
Oh yeah, isn't it weird how that?
Lawrence had the reputation of he spent more time, as he mentioned earlier, in the Baylor Student Union than going to class.
Really?
And it wasn't because he was thirsty. It was because of the ladies that were in there.
Never caught one of them. Never got a date.
No one ever like finally just said, "I'll go out with you," or
I finally realized, looking in the mirror, I was rather homely looking. But anyway.
What was the bowl game? Oh, no, it was not a bowl game. Baylor Syracuse. This was your senior year, I think. And Floyd Little, Larry Zonka were on Syracuse.
That was the year after I left.
Oh, the year after you left.
Yes,
okay. So neither one of you were there.
No.
Okay. That Milton Berle was like being driven around the track in a convertible. I didn't know if that was your last year or not.
No,
that was
that's
Syracuse.
my first year
Okay.
at the Oilers, but they worked them over.
I want you to look at him for a second. I know that.
hard to do.
What is when you think of Don Truhl,
Yeah.
Lawrence Elkins, what do you think of?
I just think my old friend Gator.
Why did you get that nickname?
Because I had 2 teeth missing, and I had a partial bridge, and of course I took the bridge out when I played. But what's crazy, in high school, I played baseball and had it when I was my older brother, when I was about, 12 years old. This is for modern techniques of implants and everything else. These little gliders, balsa wood planes you'd throw, and they'd do loop-the-loops, and he threw one at me, and I had a baseball bat in my hand, and I ducked and hit my teeth and broke one off, and it killed the root and all, so it had to be pulled, and so then I got a partial plate. But my baseball coach, who was the father of one of my teammates, growing up in Little League, we went and won the state championship in Little League baseball, and he gave me the name of Gator because he said, well, you smile and you look like an alligator. I had that gap right in the front. And ironically, I got to Baylor. I didn't tell anybody or anything. And Ronnie Stanley was 2 years ahead of me, and he and Herbie Atkins lived on my floor at the end of the hall in Martin Hall. And we were at practice one day or something, and Stanley said, damn, you look just like a Gator, Truhl.
And that's where it all started.
That's where it all started.
So, when you think of him,
I think he's pretty neat. Wish I was smart as he was, but I never have been. Anyway, we've been good friends. But if it wasn't for him, wouldn't have done near as much at Baylor.
can you imagine your football career or life if he had Oklahoma City to anywhere else?
Yeah,
I mean, you still would have been a good player. No matter where you would have gone, he would have still been a great player as well. Both of you would have been great. But just how things happen. Some kid from Southeast High School, is that what you said? Mm-hmm. And here you are from Brownwood.
Brownwood, and including the Bluebonnet Bowl, catch 77 passes in one season.
I said 70. I couldn't remember.
Well, I caught 7, but they don't count.
They didn't count the bowl games.
Didn't count
Yeah.
it. So I could still say 77.
Now, speaking of my high school, small school on the south side of Oklahoma City. I don't know if you're familiar with Oklahoma City.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Canadian River runs through it, and there's the north side with Northwest Classen and Nichols Hills, which is the more affluent side of town.
Right.
My dad was a cab driver, and we lived on the south side of town. And, of course, the south side always thought we were a lot tougher, and we were, than the kids on the north side and everything. But from our school, our first All-American and Hall of Famer was a guy by the name of Clinton Thomas, Oklahoma, shared halfback opposite Tommy McDonald.
Mm-hmm.
And then a kid that was our ball boy, he was a freshman. His brother played football but wasn't very good, was a little kid by the name of Bobby Mercer, if you remember him.
The baseball player with the Yankees.
Great. He was a high school halfback and a linebacker, scored 54 touchdowns in high school.
Well, Mickey Mantle was a Oklahoman too, right? I mean, that's state.
Commerce.
Yeah.
But Bobby had a football scholarship.
Remember
to
Bobby
OU.
Mercer?
Bobby Mercer had a football scholarship to OU.
Wow.
As a halfback, but he signed with the Yankees, and the rest is history.
I remember that. Bobby Mercer, he was like the next, of course, they tag people, the next so-and-so, the next so-and-so, the next Mantle or whatever, which is always unfair as well. What did Lawrence Elkins mean to Don Truell? Can you imagine where you would be, what your life would be like, no matter what?
Well, if I hadn't, I'm glad I went to Baylor, first of all. I almost went to Oklahoma State, but came down to scholarship day, and Cliff Spiegel was the head coach at Oklahoma State at that time. His nephew was a guy by the name of C.B. Spiegel III, and C.B. and I lived a block apart.
That's okay.
And C.B. was a great high school quarterback at his dad's school, Capitol Hill High School in Oklahoma City. And he was a year behind me. And they recruited me, but then Cliff called me in and says, Don, we'd like to have you and all, but, I got my nephew coming next year, and he's a quarterback, and we're not going to be able to offer you a scholarship. And so I went to Baylor. To be honest, I probably would have gone to Oklahoma State.
Had you heard much about Baylor?
Not a thing. Only Baylor I knew about was a watch and the guy that played basketball, Elgin.
Elgin Baylor, one of the greatest players, and sometimes this name's not brought up enough for how good he was.
My brother was in the seminary, older brother, at Fort Worth, and one of his real good friends was a cheerleader at Baylor when he was in undergraduate school. And so through hook and crook, my mom would send my brother clippings from the Oklahoma City paper, and then he would give them to, I can't even remember the guy's name, and his parents lived next door to Cotton Davidson.
Oh.
So they would get him to Cotton.
There you go.
So basically Cotton recruited me and called me and came up to the all-state game and everything.
Because a lot of times people forget this, and even when I'm old enough now, and I say that a lot, but where the internet is now just something people are born into. I mean, immediate conversations, cell phones, text, social media, whatever. So, you see in the newspaper, Saudi Arabia, and you go, I'm sure, letters back and forth that could take days, but how it happened, how some kid from Southeast High School in Oklahoma ends up at Baylor, and you end up from Brownwood, and here's Texas and here's Darrell Royal as he's about to start his great run. That's pretty darn cool. And the two of you have been incredible for Baylor, and Baylor's been great for both of you as well. Baylor football, it like we mentioned before, it's had its ups and downs or whatever. What does it mean, and I know both of you might shy away from this, but what does it mean that when they talk about the greatest names in Baylor football that you are included?
Feel honored. Sometimes I feel like, golly, those people are a lot better than I ever thought about being. And that's how I feel, when I see them nowadays, how fast they are. And then I think, well, wait a minute, they didn't play both ways, did they? But anyway, you throw that
Not
out.
only that, you return kicks and punts. Yeah.
And kicked off.
Kicked off.
And kicked off as well.
But times have changed. I mean.
Oh, yeah. Of course, I'd be upset if I wasn't included. That's just your own personal pride.
I feel the same way. I was trying to be a little humble there. But
when we're up there in the stands watching the game and you see a receiver running, all you always say, that guy doesn't know how to cut. He's just rounding off his corners and everything, which is right.
Like a banana.
But we're kind of. When I say critical, it's critical. We're assessing what they're doing wrong.
You can see it in a way that a lot of people may think they can, but you can't. You played the game. You played it at an elite level. You're in the Hall of Fame. You're in the Hall of Fame. I want to thank Marquise Cooley and also Andrew Robertson. They're here today in the studio helping us with what's going on. Obviously, Armstrong Sims and of course, both Cole Barber, Ashley Hodge, and Brian Etheridge. We wanted to start. We had Grant Taft in about 5, 6, 8 weeks ago, and you guys were next on the radar, and I know we've talked about this for a few weeks, and this is great. This is something that Baylor fans, I think, will digest. I hope you've enjoyed every second of this because it's been fun. It's not, oh my God, we have 10 or 15 minutes on the radio, or we have, a 30-minute documentary or whatever. Have you had fun?
Oh yeah, I had a great time. I appreciate it. I know Lawrence does too. Being asked and good to see my old buddy and have a few words with it and all. And we're going to go have lunch and
good.
talk about who knows what.
And you're getting to get honored by the Houston Touchdown Club here pretty soon as well.
In middle August, they have an award they give every year. I'm very humbled by it. I've been on the board since, speaking of Dick Magle got me on it back in the late 70s after I retired, and as a board member. And then I was past president 6 years ago. And so I've been on it a little over 40 years. And they have an award they give every year they call Touchdowner of the Year to somebody within Texas, either player, coach, both, that's added not necessarily credibility, but noticeability, et cetera, to the game of football. Been a stalwart for football, and I'm following some pretty good guys. Last year, we gave it to Dan Pastorini. The year before that, we gave it. Last year, we gave it to Terry Bradshaw. The year before that, we gave it to Pastorini. The year before that, we gave it to Archie Manning. And then, of course, all your famous coaches, Southwest Conference Royals in it, Slocum's in it, et cetera, et cetera.
And by the way, hoping and praying for Archie.
I was just going to say our prayers are for.
Yeah, hoping and praying for him and how he handles and battles what he has to deal with right now. Judy, your wife is here as well. Appreciate you being here and being patient with us.
I would not have missed this for anything.
Well,
I thoroughly enjoyed all of it.
I have too. I mean, for me, I'm not a Baylor alum, a graduate. I've covered Baylor now seriously since 2010, and it's incredible to get to know the history and be a part of it.
To hear all the stories is just wonderful.
Yeah, it is. And this is what it's for. That's why we're here. Don, thank you, man. Appreciate you. I know you had to drive all over the state to get up here, and you guys enjoy your lunch.
Bad.
Lawrence, great to hear from you. Great to see you, buddy.
Thank you.
Always great. The great Don Truhl and Lawrence Elkins. I'm David Smoke. For all that I mentioned that are helping us get all this set up, and Sikkim365.com and Sikkim365 Radio. Goodbye. Right now from the studio in Sikkim 365 and Baylor Nation.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Bird Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Bird Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sikkim Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Have you downloaded the Sikkim 365 Radio app? Do it today on the App Store and Google Play.
Hope you enjoyed 2 old-timers. I mean, those guys like to get after each other. Quarterback and Don Truill, wide receiver, and Lawrence Elkins, and their journey, not just through football, not starting with just Baylor, but also along the way professionally and what they do now business-wise. Hey, I want to throw something up because I know that you have a big heart, and we're trying to help a family. Rusty Alston IV died earlier this month in a 1-car accident. He was a fireman in Tomball, Texas. He's not a Baylor grad, but who cares? He loved Baylor. He was at a lot of the tailgates. Ashley Hodge knows him. Oso Coriel knows him. A lot of people on Sikkim365.com know him. This is a graphic of some who have already given and pledged money so we can raise money for Rusty's 2 children, Arturo, 14, and 10-year-old Carrie. Trying to help maybe put some money together so they can have a college education fund. Angela is the wife, and she is blown away by what people have done to give back to the family of Rusty Alston IV. He, again, was a Tomball firefighter who died earlier this month. Now, you see different names. Here are some things, and I don't know exactly how much of that you can read, but for example, there are different pledges. $10 for every point Baylor scores against Ole Miss, so hope you really hope it's a shootout, and then again, if you're a Baylor fan, you don't want to see Ole Miss in a shootout, but who knows? $10 for every point. Some are even putting up money for every turnover that Baylor creates. Some are putting up money for whether Lane Kiffin and Dave Aranda have a handshake or hug. And then there's even more for if they do more than that, because, of course, this is the time of the year to enjoy. And we're trying to help the Alston family and trying to find pledges. If you are a member of Sikkim365.com, if you're not joined, just because there's so much information, even if you're not a Baylor fan, so you can join, get in the premium section, be a part of the thread about Fire Bear, Tomball firefighter who passed away earlier this month. Again, trying to raise money, a college education fund for Arturo and Carrie, and hopefully we can do that. $100 for this, $10 for that. Some are just pledging $500 no matter what. Some are then double pledging and money to try to help a family who lost their father earlier this month. And if you have a chance to join Sikkim365.com, there's a lot of names on that list, but Ashley Hodge, one of the partners with Brian Etheridge and Colt Barber, he started this. Oso Coriel, Franco, and again, I can't get to everybody involved. Lion, Bear, me off the top of my head with some of the other names. Thank you. But we also want more to give back to the family who lost their father during and right before the Christmas holidays. All right, thank you very much for being a part of today's show. Thanks to Armstrong Sims and Jack McKenzie. They're about to pack up all the equipment, head to New Orleans first thing tomorrow. And the next time we talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock Central Time, we will broadcast live from New Orleans with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoke joining me as well. So now, thank you for your time, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, and good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.